Make your bed. We can choose.
And from that thing, you can adjust the camera a little bit.
Yeah.
Here comes trouble.
So here comes trouble.
Absolutely.
The video engineer?
Shut it down. Here, could you just- He's got-
I heard one shovel like.
They're doing something.
Shoveling out there.
Orange. Still got-
Yeah, erase that guy. Okay.
Pretty big enough.
And we're living, you must have got snow, the keep. So it's like.
No, that's not it. It's piling.
It's actually. That's a 50.
All of them are like that?
It's my bad. Not all of them, some of them were, the 23rd.
Yep. She's going to print out some of those agendas out in the audience, maybe the wrong date. Zoning meeting.
GBA instead of the.
Yeah, apparently it's got some mixed in there, so it may be confusing. Let's see.
Got an agenda, chapter agenda at the top, it says, ZBA or zoning board of appeals, it's the wrong agenda, Tammy's taking the correct one.
I was doing 15,000.
Apparently somewhere mixed.
No worries.
Should say planning commission agenda and have today's date, January 23rd.
Oh, I think we need to 15.
That's pretty weird. Oh, Lord, pretty nice. Yeah, I'm starting. That's not. The light dimming. They're cold. And they're cold.
No, yes. Oh, no, I don't know. And it's.
The circuit got it.
Didn't want to change it up. Just click on.
Oh, so you just gotta blow it back up? Okay, so sometimes when they log in, it takes over and then you got.
Yep.
Okay. For about half of that. Thanks, Steve. You need one?
Oh, here.
Yep,
give
he's
me
got
one.
a zoning down there.
Yes, so.
Oh, me too, I'm sorry.
Oh, you got a minute. Zoning board of appeals.
That might be
You
a.
got the right one, Jason? Yeah.
This is. Did you find it? I got the right agenda. Agenda.
But then you got the ball.
Oh, yeah. We have.
So it's not.
Oh, it's gonna have to get that side. Or being a silly.
Oh, no, cool. Yeah, I got to look.
Okay, let's call our meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Tammy, would you call the roll, please?
John Condon,
Here.
Jason Turno,
Here.
Jason McConnell,
Here.
Gary Tilson,
Here.
Kevin Lawrence.
Here. You may notice we have, John Condon, a new member of the planning commission, and, Mr. Gunnels was after the zoning board of appeals. Actually, they swapped, boards, so to speak, but I'd like to thank Eric for the many years he's spent on planning and guided us through a lot of stuff. He's in our audience tonight, and we appreciate all the input he gave us over the years and hope that he will still be a resource for us as we move forward. We also have Attorney Chris at the far end down there. He's part of the township's legal department, so if we need to refer to anything to him for opinion on any of the topics tonight, we have him on standby. Okay, at this point, once a year, the first meeting of every year, we have to have election of officers for us persons up here. We have a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a secretary. So first up is we need nominations for chairperson to begin.
I can nominate Kevin Lawrence for chairperson.
I second.
Any other nominations? Is there any more nominations? I have to ask 3 times. Any more nominations? Close the nominations for chairperson. All in favor of Kevin being chairperson, signify with aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay. Vice chairperson, we have to have a second in command. The nomination for vice chairperson. Vice chairperson is Mr. McConnell.
I'll make a motion, Jason, as a vice chair.
I second.
Is there any other nominations for vice chair? Any other nominations for vice chair position? Any other nominations for vice chair position? Close the nominations. Everybody in favor of vice chairperson Jason McConnell, signify with aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. We have 5-0 there. We also have to have a secretary, official document signer for the planning commission. Current secretary is Mr. Jason Turno. And we'll take nominations for secretary. I'll nominate Jason Turno for secretary.
I second.
Support. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Any other nominations for secretary? Any other nominations for secretary? Close the nominations. All in favor of Jason Tarnow for secretary for planning commission, signify with aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay. I said. I was just trying to figure out why everybody up there saying yay and everybody out here saying yay. I just figured I'd give a name.
Okay, our officers are all remain the same then. Welcome back, everybody. Next on the order is changes to the agenda. Do we have any additions or subtractions we need to add to our agenda? Changes?
You might need to get back.
Okay, we'll move on. The next item up is the minutes from the November 7th special meeting that we had. You should have a copy. They are lengthy. But I do ask that Tammy, our recording secretary, do extensive minutes so that we know everything that transpired at a meeting. They are more detailed than the normal board of trustees meeting, but the state and the Michigan Township Association recommends planning minutes be documented well enough to recreate any decisions and any factors that went into a decision at a meeting. We make them pretty extensive. Any corrections to the minutes? If anybody has? Minutes for this particular meeting were 11 pages long, so I want to make sure everybody gets a check. And by the way, minutes are always available 8 days after the meeting, unapproved copies that will be color, positive, all. I believe they do post them on the website after we approve them. You know that? Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the November 7th, 2024 special planning commission meeting.
I second.
Any more discussion on the minutes? Please. Okay, all in favor of the minutes from the November 7th, 2024 special meeting? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
All abstention. All opposed, say nay. Okay. An abstention. Takes care of our minutes. Okay, at this time, we'll accept public comments on agenda items only. The two agenda items we can talk about are Skyway Towers and Nerve Cannabis. We do have 3-minute limitation, and I will caution you to try to keep it civil. This last meeting on the 7th got kind of disruptive, and if need be, we will just shut down the comment portion if it becomes too disruptive. I do have the attorney here. You have to address your comments to me as the chairperson. We are not required to answer, but I'd like to answer questions. If there is a question that you have on a particular topic, when we get to that topic, we can bring it up with our attorney, and I will ask him that question so that you will hear the answer to it at this meeting as part of our discussion. So at this time, anybody wants to come up and make a comment on one of the agenda items, you're more than welcome.
Oh, thank you, guys. I have a couple things to talk about, but it comes down to the cell tower that is being planned across the road from my house. So let me just start off with this. And I've been researching data, and it comes down to cell towers being too close to people's residences. According to current scientific census, a safe distance from a 5G cell tower is generally considered to be at least 1,500 feet away, with many experts recommending even greater distances due to potential about radio frequency radiation exposure through non-definitive health risks have been conclusively linked to standard cell tower radiations. I have other linked spots too. And I will, hang on 1 second, so I can bring these up. Cited places that determine a safe distance for a cell phone tower at a 5G should be 1,500 feet away from a house or residential area. There is no conclusive evidence at this point to link any harm to 5G cell phone radiation, which is another issue that is kind of concerning me. I have kids that live right across the street from this cell tower, and if there's anything that's going to happen to my kids, the first thing I'm coming to, ailments of any situation, my lawyers are coming towards you guys for the first thing. I'm just trying to bring up the rest of the sightings because I have EMF experts that also conclude that being within 1,500 feet is a dangerous radius within a cell phone tower at a 5G level. In most cases, a distance of at least a quarter of a mile, 13 to 20 feet or 400 feet is required to bring exposures down to a general public precautionary level of 100 microwatts per square meter. A 2021 study published in the National Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found higher cell tower RFR radiation exposure linked to increased mortality for all cancers, including breast, cervix, lung, and esophagus cancers. Now, when you guys did this, started off doing this, there wasn't an old folks home within a couple hundred meters. There wasn't another house that they built within a couple hundred meters of this place. I didn't live across the street with someone that didn't care about radiation, living a couple hundred feet across the way. And not only does radiation affect people, it affects animals, bees, everything, and then you have a national sanctuary right there. So you have this radiation that's given off 1,500 feet in a big circular area that's affecting everything and everyone around it. And so if my kids get any kind of ailments, my lawyers are coming after you guys and the city for improvements. If they get a cold, I'm coming after you guys. That's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
This is on cell tower matter, dude.
I built the house that sits right there, that you guys all want to build, this cell tower out my 5x8 window. If you guys want to look at a cell tower, put it on your property. I have animals, 4 horses, goats, sheep, dogs. I don't want them. I don't want to wake up every morning and look at a cell tower. If you can pay somebody in our township money to put it on their property, put it on the township's property. Put it on Genesee County Parks property. I don't care where you put it. Not right out my fucking front door, or my fridge. But I don't want to look at it. I don't want no beacon 200 feet in the air. You all want to look at it, you put it there. That's all I have to say on it, because if it does go there, we'll be back, because I ain't looking at it.
Thank you.
I'm Brian Pennington. I was here last meeting. I speak on a cell tower too, and I'm taking kind of a different approach. I hear what we're saying about concerns about radiation, probably true. I've read the same things. I'm more about precedent, what we're doing. I approached the zoning board this last year because I put up a new pole barn on my property. I got 25 acres, I have 2 parcels. And I had to get multiple variances to put it in front of my house, make sure it was a safe distance from the road. It couldn't, some of the criteria was, you know, you're lucky you're a spot across in the park because there's no houses that are gonna be looking at it. It's not affecting anybody else on my property. Now you have a situation with the cell tower, and I mentioned this before, I'm libertarian in nature. I mean, if it's not really affecting me, do what you want to do, it really doesn't matter, but this property, it is adjacent to my property. I can't believe the ZBA gave a setback on it, a setback variance on it. I realize the professionals say it's gonna fall on itself. Well, I own an engineering company in Clio, and I engineer automation equipment all day long, and I can tell you that things don't always go as they're engineered. If, you know, I was concerned when I came at the last meeting that it was gonna be closer to my property than it actually is. So I don't really have concerns with it falling on my property. I can, and the neighbors here are really bringing that fact up and bringing the radiation up. But the idea that you're in a rural neighborhood, residential neighborhood, and you won't let people put a garage in front of their house without getting a variance. But we're gonna put a 200-foot cell tower in the front yard. Just doesn't seem right. And it sets a precedent. And I know, because I cited a precedent when I came in and tried to get a variance for my pole barn. We can drive around the township. I can show all kinds of buildings that are in front of houses. Put up in front of houses. You know, so now we're talking about master plans and everything else. And what are we gonna do if next year I want a cell tower in my front yard? I got 25 acres, I don't have 7.5, I got 25. Why can't I put a cell tower in my yard? I just, you know, I get the township wants revenue, they want businesses to come in, but when's enough? You know, we're living here because we want to live in a rural neighborhood. And I just can't believe that this board would sit here and consider that it's okay on a 7.5 acre parcel to put a cell tower in somebody's front yard. It doesn't make sense. Help me out on it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, thank you.
I have another. I don't know. About that though, I didn't even think about cell tower falling down. I read it, I didn't even dawn on me, but they ain't gonna do it. And the power lines to that house are within 200 feet from that cell tower. So when that goes out, we get to sue you guys, because I don't have power because you guys put the cell tower on top of too close to the power line.
We actually just make a recommendation to the elected.
Well, I would recommend them to put it on the parks property.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I was here at the last meeting as well. I have been in healthcare for about 15 years, so I could go on and on about the oncology patients I've seen that get radiation, about hypothyroid people that get radiation therapy and have to isolate themselves for 7 days. However, I kind of like this gentleman's approach of let's go a whole different direction of making you listen. So my direction is we moved here into this property 4 or 5 years ago or so. There was no internet in the area that was good. We chose that. That was fine. However, we had children that needed to do online school. I chose to go back to nursing school. So we went ahead and called Spectrum, called actually every single, network provider that we could to figure out how we could get high-speed internet in our area. The only route was to talk to Spectrum and get the need for it in our area. At that time, there was not enough people, I should say, or it wasn't available, I'll say. Within the first 6 months of us living there, we had a case. Spectrum came in, they ran a line all the way, I believe it was from Genesee and Farindish, all the way down to Genesee and Lake, and all the way up Lake. We now have 5G service. We are not affected by radiation in any way. It is all underground and it's safe. And multiple people in our area do have access to 5G. So in my opinion, it's unnecessary. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for comment?
Eugene Marcel, I just would like to say that, I was on the zoning board, I just got put on the zoning board. And we voted for the allowance. I wish these people would have showed up at that meeting, so I could have heard their input before I made my decision. So I think they're like putting the cart, whatever, behind, you're sitting there blaming the zoning board. One of them can't believe the zoning board voted it in. Well, where were all these people then? It was just a week ago. They could have been at the zoning board and helped me make my decision, because as far as I knew, nobody gave a crap about this, because nobody was at the zoning board. I'm just defending the zoning board.
Nobody was informed.
We had to get a mailing for this meeting.
Yeah,
I didn't get a mailing for the last
And
meeting.
there's just not a lot of communication that goes on with that whole thing. That's what.
I would have been there, but I never.
I would have been there too, man.
Absolutely.
Like, seriously.
There was a mailing for the, zoning board of appeals did a mailing.
I have nothing.
Never seen it, never received it, you guys can
Yeah,
complain.
within 300 feet.
We're right next door.
We're right next
across the
door.
street.
We're right next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're 150.
And to be honest with you, I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't even get my winter taxes, so I had to come in and get my winter taxes, so. That's the mail. It could be you guys did send them out, but the mail might not have made it to our houses. So I'm just saying that as
I'd
well.
like Tammy to put a little input here with regards to who got notices and who didn't.
All the people that got notices in the mail for this meeting also got it for the zoning.
How did you determine who got those notices?
It's a 300 radius.
So we are 150 feet
We never
radius,
got,
and none of us
no
got
notice.
I'm the one that personally sent them out.
I checked my mail and I didn't get.
What was the address you sent it to?
I have a list.
The same one that you.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
The same one that you got it for this one.
But that's, I actually saw this online.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You guys, it might not be her, because I
No, I'm not-
literally did not get my winter taxes, and I can only say that I'm guaranteeing you. they
Yeah, I
sent
know. I
me
check my
winter
mail
taxes.
every day.
It might have been the mail people.
What I'm gonna suggest, if you didn't get a notice, stop in and see Tammy during her office hours. And she can pull up a list for you and see, maybe they've got a bad address. I don't know. I don't see the list, when it goes out, but I know it is anytime we have to do a public notification for something, the state requires 300 feet radius from whatever, we're looking at, whether it's a cell tower, a marijuana business, a rezoning for a property, anything that has to come before the planning commission or the zoning board of appeals. There's a notice that has to be put in the local newspaper 15 days in advance. It's usually put on the township website, it's posted on the door, and anybody within 300 feet gets a letter. So that's the notification process. If you don't get a letter, you don't get the newspaper, you don't see it on the website. I don't know.
We were lucky.
That's the way we do the notification. If you don't get it, stop in and make sure that they have a correct address. I would hope that, I believe they pull it off the property tax records for the notifications. And there could be an error, or maybe somebody in the property tax records put your mortgage company on.
Well,
there
that's what I'm
instead of
wondering, if my mortgage company,
You know.
because they pay the taxes through the
Yeah.
mortgage company, if they're getting the notice and then I'm not.
And if that's the case, then that's something that if you know about it, come in and see her and she can get with the assessor and get a correction made.
Absolutely, thank you.
Because that could happen too, so. We want everybody to be able to know, because I appreciate anybody that comes for an opinion. That's what, we want your opinions so that we have something to base a decision on.
Yeah, I appreciate you
For us
guys.
to just blindly make a decision, we don't like to do that. We like to have somebody here. So. Any other comments? Eugene?
I'm sorry, I also wanted to mention, the outdoor growing. I know that this is gonna, I'll get one of my friends mad at me, but I don't think any of the businesses should be able to have outdoor growing on any of the marijuana.
Thank you.
So I would, I think it all should be indoor, especially when you have acres of it. That's just, again, you wanted our opinion, that's my opinion when it comes to the marijuana. I think it all should be indoor grown. And I'm gonna throw this out there, that I also believe anybody that grows it at their home should have to have a 6-foot privacy fence around the area that the marijuana is being grown. And the only reason I say that is I have a neighbor that grows his where he doesn't have a fence, and I'm very sensitive to it, so I can smell it way before anybody else can. I had a conversation with my friend there about that, they're like, oh, you don't smell it. But across the street, they got theirs in a 6-foot privacy fence, and I can go over and visit with them and I don't even smell it. Because unless they have one lit on, because the wind's not blowing it around. So my personal opinion is all businesses should all be indoor grow, and any home grow should have a 6-foot privacy fence around their marijuana. Thank you.
I have a question about that too. Any state law, private individuals on homes, they're supposed to be in a locked area. Whether it's outdoor or not, it's supposed to be fenced in where nobody can access.
That's correct.
So why does this township allow people to grow marijuana outside? And,
We can't police who grows on their own private.
well, I
property.
mean, if people actually did what they were supposed to do up here sometimes. I mean, I'm new to this area. So I see cop cars sitting out here for 15 years. I don't know what they're for. I don't ever see a cop out here.
We don't have a police department.
Okay.
If you know somebody that's grown that, you call the code enforcement.
So there you go. I've talked to the code enforcers. They don't care. The old one didn't care. I don't know who the new one is, but Graham's, that's a residential area behind it. If they're allowed to grow marijuana out in the open like that, then you might as well allow Starbucks to tear down half mile orders and go but down there. I work around the stuff. I smoke it. Doesn't bother me a bit. I don't think kids should have to smell it. And if you would like your grandkids to smell it, you should buy their houses that are over there by Graham's and move over there. So that's it.
Thank you.
You guys know how I feel about Graham, there's been multiple times over this. So I'm not gonna go into a big thing, but I just still think that it's crap and you shouldn't allow it next to our home. I don't want 6,000 plants outside, my house is gonna stink, I'm gonna stink, my property, my vehicles. You don't let it be next to schools and daycares, but it's okay being next to my home with my child in it. We're not even gonna be able to enjoy our house. Cause it's gonna be half of our summer. So.
What about your job?
And my job. Weed's not federally mandated, so if I go to work smelling like weed and they wanna test me or something. So, I'm a nurse, I work in the ICU, I don't wanna go to work smelling like that. So, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
I got a comment, maybe a question. So when you have these special use permits, is that an area when they're growing outside, is that an area that's zoned agricultural? How's that work?
No,
No,
it's a
no.
commercial area.
What's
Shouldn't it be agricultural?
The ordinance only, I'm sorry, Kevin, I don't mean to interrupt you. Want me to?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the areas that were approved were all commercial, general commercial. What's the other two? There was two more. But anyways, it was all in commercial. So that triangle area we refer to it is all commercial, which is why they're there. There is no
It's
ag.
considered commercial, it's not considered agricultural.
It's all commercial. All of that area. And I can show you a plot
No,
map.
I don't care about that area. I mean, the practice of growing. That's a commercial entity, not an agricultural entity.
We don't allow it on agricultural property in our zoning ordinance. Our zoning ordinance specifies, believe it or not, our zoning
Doesn't that seem a
ordinance,
little backwards? You grow out of the ground, you can't grow it.
that's a whole other topic. Yeah, and believe me.
Why wouldn't you allow it in agriculture?
Smarter.
This is the ordinance that was developed. The powers that be then decided that it was to go in the commercial and industrial areas of the township.
Doesn't that seem, doesn't that seem backwards? I mean,
I may address that just slightly if you don't mind. It's, those commercial areas are all in the buildings and they all have scrubbers. So they state mandated those scrubbers to control what they're concerned about, the smell. So I'm just saying in the area that we have them in, the system that's provided there is adequate for that system.
even that's limited. So I live on Genesee Road, I drive by the old Lads Archery every day, and in the middle of the winter with my windows up, I smell
You can smell it right
I'm
now.
not saying it's foolproof.
it. So,
Mhm. I got out.
it just seems like,
It was bad.
if I decide to build my dream house next to a pig farm, it's reasonable to expect I'm gonna smell pig crap all day long. And that's a risk I take by building my house there. But when you're building in an area where, I mean, again, if this was across the street from my place on Genesee Road, I'd be having a shit fit.
And we've
Yeah,
been there
I really
15
would be.
years, so we just went down
You
there.
know, and I would be represented by my attorney. You know, not because I want to raise the stink, but I feel for these people, you drive down that Dordt Highway area right now, and it's a mess. What's gonna happen when maybe the federal government goes one way or another, and in 2 years from now, all these things are just abandoned?
Can I ask one more? I'm sorry, I don't mean to butt in here, but if you would have lived here 15, 20 years ago, then buildings were all abandoned. You couldn't get nothing there.
Okay.
Tore in.
No, not true. Where Graham was at, it was wagon wheel.
Okay, what the fire there, but the majority of that strip was completely.
And it was abandoned.
And it's been, a lot of them buildings have been refurbed. Now, potentially, there could be new businesses go in there. But before, you can ask the assessor, it was almost worthless in that area of the commercial buildings. And so that now we actually have something that can be utilized. You're right, I think a lot of them are gonna go away. But at least we have a commercial building in a commercial area that is marketable. Previously, we couldn't do anything with that building. And I don't know if anyone agrees with me, but I agree.
Yeah.
I put one of them there.
That's-
Exactly. I'm just trying to give you the little background of why.
I mean, I hear you make a tough decision. I just think that we're being overwhelmed by it. And here's a taxpayer that pays a lot of money in taxes every year, and I'm adamantly opposed to it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say this. Every. I just stopped and got hot chocolate on the way here. I got out and I'm gonna say, ooh. I looked at my honey and I was like, God bless America. Somebody needs to fire up some more. It was that bad, the smell. Drove by, they're having a little cotton party because there's like 10 cars there right now. So that's why they stink so bad. I understand why the people that live right next door to this are gonna have issues. You know what, if they wanna do that many plants, go up to Pencoma. Anybody raise their hand who's been to Pencoma? That's on the board, let's see. Okay, perfect. Beautiful, beautiful facility. Right. Why, if they're not wanting to do the same thing, they can be an SRP. You build a pole barn, you have the filtration. It's not an outdoor grow, it's an indoor grow. Yes, the smell's gonna still be there, but not nowhere near as potent as to what it is in an outdoor grow. You see what I'm saying? You wanna do this? Great. You put up those barns, you get that filtration system, and we'll see what happens, because they probably are not gonna wanna put the money into it. And what Brian said is right. Growing anything is agricultural. Compared if it's corn, beans, potatoes, doesn't matter. You're growing something, it's agricultural. Just like raising livestock on your property, it's agricultural. Thank you.
Thank you.
So they need to rezone.
It is zoned as.
No, I mean, they should rezone that area, not commercial, it should be ag and you want to grow.
I'm gonna circle back to the cell tower, and I don't know if it's something you guys wanna consider, but it sounds like a lot of the residents didn't receive a notice to that ZBA. And, you know, we can verify with Tammy, just make sure we didn't miss something there. I would recommend possibly sending it back to the ZBA for reconsideration, just to make sure everything is on that, helping out with that, but just my 2 cents, I just wanted to like it.
Thank you. Any other comment?
How you doing, guys? Hey, I'm just calling about grams of marijuana. You know, this is my opinion, I don't want marijuana either. But my thing with grams is, they bought that bar, right? If Graham was interested in putting the marijuana, they know they own that 10 acres. Why didn't they go to these homeowners and talk to them before they wanted this? They already knew they could do that, but these homeowners don't want, I don't want it. They got kids, they got animals, it shouldn't be there, period. They've been there way before Graham's been there, that was a bar, they tolerated that, I'm sure they didn't like it, but they did. But they don't want to tolerate marijuana, period. And you know, Graham should have went to them homeowners and talked to them first. And they didn't, so that's Graham's fault, not these homeowners. They should not have that marijuana there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hello. You told me, done planning commission trustee and now the ZBA. I don't envy at all your decision making today. These decisions are not easy to make. It's a lot of burden and pressure on board members, those appointed and elected, to make these decisions. And they're not easy to make. There are many conditions and circumstances that arise that are afterthoughts. You know, and there is, yeah, I mean, everybody has a right to personal space, and something like this, you know, it does affect people, both a cell tower, both marijuana outdoor grow, indoor grow, the type of businesses that you allow in your community, your agricultural districts, you know, solar and wind, things like that are coming to the township. They're not easy decisions to make. And I always struggle when I make a decision on things like this, because my heart goes out to the residents that come forward, come up to this podium and give their opinions about things. And I'm glad that we have that opportunity. It's a difficult thing to make a decision on one hand, whether a business should be allowed to do the business that they're intended versus, you know, what the neighbors think. And you know, I can also, you know, tell you that, you know, it's difficult to make a decision from a board like the ZBA when you have, you know, FCC rules, cell tower rules, communication rules, all these federal statutes which, you know, govern federal communication and communications devices. It's difficult to make a decision like that. I don't blame anyone for having a difference of opinion on any of those things. It is what it is. On the cell tower thing, I really think that was a lousy place to put a cell tower. That's just my opinion. That doesn't mean that was a decision that I had to weigh in on the ZBA.
Because in the ZBA, the only decision for us, in front of us, was the engineering specs of the tower itself. And it's difficult to weigh in on a decision when, your ordinances or your codes say one thing, and then a nuance, new technology is then made in the future. In this case, 30, 40 years later after the master plan, and the other ordinances. So it's not easy. These decisions are not easy to make. It's not easy for the public to hear these decisions made. And I, like I said, I don't envy your decision making on this. When it comes to the cannabis recreational thing, I can only say that, yes, I agree with others that it should have been in an agricultural area. And I was very vocal and adamant about that in the past. And I tried sharing that explanation multiple times. In fact, even above and beyond that, the number of plants per license. I went to the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing in Lansing, and I testified before that committee in opposition of granting licenses with that many plants. And although I advocated and helped write the law on the cannabis law that we have in Michigan, I was adamant against certain things. I was also for certain things that did not get included in that law. And I just want you all to know that one of those things is I advocated for a community or the state, first of all, to not issue the portion of the law where it says, unlimited licenses and this and that. I didn't like that. I was opposed to that. I also didn't like the idea of the state allowing outside operators to come into our state and do these licensed businesses. In my opinion, these things should have been given out to, they should have been allowed, each community should have been allowed to give out a certain number to their residential community. If you live in that community, you should have gotten an opportunity to do a business license before everyone else. That's my thoughts and my opinions on that. I know that's not a decision you weigh on today, but I'm giving you a little bit of that history just because how the decisions got to be where they are. I want this board to know how those decisions came to be. I want the public to know how those decisions came to be. The more informed we are, the better decisions hopefully we can all make as a community together. With that said, the smell of marijuana is highly subjective. While I do think that the science on 5G radiation is still out there, and we don't have enough conclusive evidence to show that its potential harm, I do think that there is an issue there, and we in the future we may find out that 5G is harmful to the environment. On the issue of marijuana, I know that the smell is something that could affect people or can trigger their issue that they have with it. But if this was allowed in a agricultural area, you have to actually understand too that people that live in an agricultural area or around an agricultural area would have also been affected. That being said, this township made certain decisions that I think it has to live with, and I think that's one of them. On the cell tower, if I thought that they could go back and pick a different property that was further away from other houses, I would recommend that they do that. But if this is not the decision before you and you have no choice in the matter, do what you feel you have to do. Other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
I do have a question. It sort of kind of goes on both of these, I guess. What happens when our property values go down because of the 5G, because of radiation, because of the smell, because of who wants to live next to this stuff?
Exactly.
Who's gonna pay for the depreciation of my property?
Mine's going down $40,000 as soon as that cell tower goes up.
This is where I wanna, because I just got done building my house. It took me 3.5 years to build it. I paid out of pocket for it. I owe $11,000 on it. I'm 42 years old. I do not want to start all over again. That was a lot of work. So I really don't want my property to depreciate by any means. You know what I mean? And it always, God loves, chicks see me in there, getting all my property permits and everything else. I've been in here a lot. I've lived in this township since I was 3 years old. Actually, the property is my mom and dad's. Right next door. So it's really hard. I'm torn between the two, but I do want to know about that. Who's gonna take care of when my property or their properties next to the marijuana stuff depreciates? I mean, even Brian's, who's right behind it, he's already left, but his property could depreciate, and he just built that beautiful home, stunning home on that piece of property. And has revamped the house that was the original on that property to make it come back to a very, very nice looking house as well. So again, there's a bunch of us who want to know how this depreciation part is going to work out, if this all is allowed.
There's actually no way to predict that because we have the same issue with solar farms coming.
Yeah, I know.
So it's gonna be an issue forever, with any construction or any improvements. And I don't have an answer to that. And that's something that we probably will never be able to answer. What causes it, which way it goes, who knows? But, I thank you for your point. And this is all stuff that we have to consider when we discuss this. So that's why we like you guys to be here. We want the feedback because it helps us make a decision.
Right.
Like I say, that we were not blindly just pulling something out of a hat.
Oh, exactly. Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it.
I just want to add one more thing, sorry. I just want to emphasize the health risk of this whole thing. Like what she's saying, just the property value alone is a bite in the ass, all right? But the biggest thing to me is my kids' health and them being less than 100 meters away from a cell tower that they expect you to be 400 feet away from, So like I'm going to emphasize to you guys again, if there's any health problems with my children whatsoever, there's going to be lawsuits that's going to come down to you guys in lots of different ways. So just think about where you're putting this. And then you're also putting yourself in a situation where there's other people that can sue you for this kind of thing. You got an old folks home that's right there with elderly people that's getting this radiation injected to them. So it just opens up a door for all kinds of lawsuits for you guys. I mean, just take that into consideration. I mean, serious consideration. Thank you.
Right.
I get that's good.
I know you can.
All right, a couple of concerns and questions. I understand the dilemma of the home. I also understand the dilemma of this. I live in the middle of the triangle. I must be the most genetically lucky guy in the world because I don't smell it. I also know that the people that have the business try very hard to keep any kind of crime down. They also try very hard to keep their buildings up and looking good. I'm going to follow that with the question. The homeowners can come up and demand this and complain about that and say, you're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Is anybody going to talk to the business owners and said, hey guys, smell is a problem. You know this as well as we do. How can we as homeowners work with you as a business owner to find a way to contain that smell or to reduce it? I don't think that's happened yet. And it should. We as residents of this township, yes, we have the right to address our concerns at the board level, no question about it. But it's also incumbent upon us to do the research, to extend our knowledge out to the rest of the community, being the business owners, the business marijuana people. Okay. Without that, all you're doing is going up there and going, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." You really aren't making any difference. And I empathize with them. I truly do. I don't like marijuana. I personally don't like it. I've never used it. Frankly, I'm lucky. I don't have to smoke. And I'm right next door to two of them. And I do mean next door. We got to do our own research as members of this township. We've got to get with the owners and say, look, there's got to be a way that we can reduce this. We need to get with groups like the American Medical Association, those kind of folks, I can't remember half of them, and say, look, this is a legitimate concern. We want to pull you all together. We want you to come down here with the owners, and sit down with them and the residents and say, let's come up with a solution. That's what needs to be done, in my opinion. And again, I empathize on both sides, I truly do. If that hasn't been done, it needs to be. And it needs to be done very quick. It ain't gonna be very long before them plants gonna be in the ground. Okay. So if we're gonna do something like that, we need to start doing it yesterday. And I'll end that one. Same thing goes on that cell tower. Well, so-and-so said 500, whatever. This guy said 2,000, this guy said 1,500, whatever the case might be. Okay. But there's 5 million different opinions. I've talked to half a dozen different people myself about it. And they say that 90% of the 5G information out there is false. And these are people that are in the industry.
No,
I'm
not saying
that.
I have cited.
I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying this is what people are telling. I'm sorry, excuse me.
I know that's hearsay.
And they do that.
Talk up there, Greg. All hearsay.
Well, we need to get the people here, get the data here, get the information here, get the people that want to build the cell tower here, if they're not here already. I don't know. I have.
She was here the last meeting, but she's scared to show up this one.
I don't see him tonight.
Okay.
They were scared to show up, I think.
They need to sit down with we, the residents, and say, look, here is our data. Our business is to provide you with cell phone service. We're not going to throw you into a dangerous pit just because. If you do that and everybody dies of cancer, ain't gonna be nobody needs a cell phone. So we need to quit getting all excited about this. Oh my God, this is terrible. And what we really need to do is make the issues informative. Find out from the people who are in charge of the issue, not you guys. I'm talking about the cell phone company. I'm talking about the marijuana dealers. And let's find a way to solve these problems. Let's quit arguing about them and go out and solve them. I stand down, sir. Thank you.
I have one other thing to
Thank you,
add.
Greg. It's some good comments that you made, and we'll take that into consideration.
Like Eric Gunnell and this gentleman was saying, I think you guys gotta really look at some seriously things. Like rezoning. Commercial's commercial. Commercial's meant for bars, shops, stores, not weed shops. Weed shops, fine. Grows, agriculture. That's it. Cell phone towers, you guys plan this? Never even looked to see what was going on. New houses, new people. You guys didn't care. Somebody didn't care. Because you guys are just gonna try to shove it through. I hope you all look at it. Seriously,
I hate to interrupt you. I've been to the property, but let me give you some history real quick. The cell tower was approved by the board in 2017, I believe.
Yeah.
Right.
For whatever reason, the company didn't build it and construct it then. They ran out of time.
They constructed the one on Center Road instead.
They ended up coming back to us. Okay, I've been out and looked at the property. I've talked to Mrs. Weaver on the phone.
Of course, she would want to take $900 a month. If you guys can give her $900 a month, you
No,
can give the county $900.
I don't.
Not saying you the county, not saying you guys.
I'm just gonna tell you that I don't know how much money she's getting. I don't care how much money she's getting. That's immaterial.
That's fine. I understand
You
it.
know, that's between her and the company, and that's none of our business.
Well, I'm
Our
just,
business is to look at a place that wants to come in and put up a tower. That's why we're here. We look at it, we evaluate it. Does it fit? Does it not fit? When they came for their discussion, the first thing that crossed our mind was the setbacks were not proper. They were in violation of our zoning ordinance. So we stopped the discussion right then. We didn't go any farther because there was no point in it because they were in violation of the zoning ordinance.
okay.
So that's why they went to ZBA, got their variance. Now it's on our docket tonight to start discussing it. I don't know at this point right now if it's gonna be yes or no.
I
I
don't
don't have that. I don't have that.
I would add one thing, man. I didn't build a $250,000 home by my own two hands from the freaking ground up. to Look at a cell tower. At all. My woman's lived on that property for 40 years. Her whole family's on that property. I don't care who put it in there. And they think, no, I don't want it there.
You know,
We
we haven't
if
made
you
it.
guys decide to go the other way with it, that's cool. I mean,
We haven't made any decisions yet. That's why.
I would just like common sense, that's what I would. Common sense thinking when it comes to something like this, zoning for commercial, for marijuana. If it ain't agriculture, don't get built. You can't grow corn in the city. I can't have a goat in the city. I can't even have a goat down by the grow shops, so. Can't have animals in the city, can't have grows in the city. Can't have them close. You wanna grow marijuana, 6,000 plants? Put it on his property since he's looking at me all goofy. Build a barn, put it outdoor, grow there.
I move forward with the meeting. That's enough public.
And I don't like getting looked at like that.
Okay.
Deb, I'm gonna take one more comment and we gotta move on.
You know, the people in Thetford Township voted 52% not to have this. Okay, they did, they voted not to have this stuff, and you guys just keep pushing, wanna push it through, I don't understand, just like the other board. During the, whatever, I hope when you guys make your decision, because I'm sure you guys vote on it. I sure hope it ain't 5-2, because we done lost, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna close public comments so that we can move on with the rest of our agenda. Thank you for the comments that you did give us. It's always appreciated. So, and it's not in vain. Believe me, we listen to everything that everybody has to say. So everybody has a valuable contribution to make and it's appreciated. Okay, we move to old business. What's the first thing up is Skyway Towers? And I don't believe we've got a rep Skyway here tonight at all. We did, just for the background history, we did table the discussion at the November meeting as soon as I brought up the fact that they were not consistent with our zoning ordinance, so we ended the discussion. Didn't really get any more information from them at that time. We've had some, we did officially, the EA did go over the engineering diagrams and agree with the engineering diagram that the tower would collapse on itself, because my explanation that I got from them was that they run cables through the center of the monopole. So that when it snaps, the cables secure it, it can't spread it, it just folds over on itself. Now, that's a certified engineering paperwork that we got.
Can I say one
That's what
thing?
we have to look at. No, sir, I'm sorry.
I got horses there, so if it collapses and hit one of the horses, they're gonna pay for the horse.
Public comments are over, sir. So just hear me out. Let us proceed, okay? Because you'll have another chance to talk at the end of this meeting And then you'll have a chance to make more comments regarding a cell tower when it gets to the board of trustees. So whether we say yes or no, it still goes to the board of trustees after us. So this is not the last stop, so to speak. But we did get the variance from the ZBA, so we can now proceed to discuss the cell tower. However, I am reluctant to do anything with the people not here.
I agree.
And, so I don't know. They knew that this was coming. They knew they had to come back here. They chose not to show up tonight. I don't know why.
That says it all, right?
What I would like to say is that, I did do some research. American Cancer Society said that there was no data on cell phone, towers that you actually receive more radiation from your smartphone holding it to your ear than you do off a cell tower antenna that's in the air. That's what I got. I went to FCC, got about the same answer. If some of you have some other information, I would appreciate a website or a link where I can go look at it after this meeting. Because what I'm going to propose for our discussion, and I'll entertain comments from everybody else, is that we table this again further. I am concerned if there is radiation and proof of it that needs to be set back, perhaps the company is willing to locate another place. I will tell you, County Parks is out. That was their first choice, was the back of Mule Lake. But County Parks does not allow cell towers or things like this on county park property. It's not just a cell tower, but they did nix that. I did check with County Parks, head of County Parks. He did say that yes, because another resident brought up the fact that it has to be a quarter mile from a county park. That's doesn't come into play. It's county park property that they do not allow cell towers and other things of this nature on county park property. For whatever reason, the company did pick the Weaver property. My assumption is because it's higher ground. That's what they were looking for to get out. But we did not get to the point of our discussion at the last meeting where we could say, is there alternative sites? Because it was brought up, the gentleman living across the street, Mr. Pennington that lives behind there, brought up the fact of it. And like I say, we did not have the opportunity to get to that discussion with those people. There is a dead area out there that's off the grid, so to speak. I serve on the communications committee for Clio area schools that the superintendent set up. And in that committee, I hear from people that, and instructors that say they can't reach out to some kids because that COVID showed them that they couldn't, they had to go to McDonald's to use the public Wi-Fi to do their homework. And they send messages to parents that come back, they don't have they can't get a connection or, they don't know where it went. So there is a concern. The schools would like to see something. Something might not have to be right there. I don't know. I'm guessing, without Skyway here, there's not a whole lot I don't think we can do. But that's my 10 cents worth. Anybody else want to comment? John?
I got a couple things. I do think there's a need for that in this area. I'm not suggesting that that's the best spot, but I think there's definitely a need for more internet service, and that's what they're going to use. They're going to just send it to it like a T-Mobile, to the phone hotspot. So having said that, though, I think there is no rep here, so I don't like that. So I would suggest that we table it and we send a note to Skyway suggesting that if they look for an alternate site, we'd waive the fee to come back. So that, because they've been here this many times, we waive the fee, give them a little incentive to look at some other sites and see what happens prior to the next meeting. That would be my recommendation if there's no problem with that.
Mr. Chair, if I may. If question is, if you're going to table it, the ZBA, if there's a question about notice under that, I would just also set up for a public hearing to meet the requirements that those within 300 feet for public hearing for rezoning, that sort of requirement is also set for the tabling discussion so that public does get adequate notice of the site plan and potential recommendation to the board of trustees.
You mean if they come back with an alternate?
No, just that for the next meeting, set it for public hearing
Okay.
on the matter so that there's not, so that that requirement is set.
Okay, we did have a public hearing on
already
November
did.
7th. Yeah,
For this.
for the cell tower.
Okay.
Yeah, but we could, I suppose we could notify again or just try to spread better word out.
My recommendation would be to set it for a public hearing so that there's not any.
A repeat public hearing again.
Right, so that the individuals that may or may not, it's just verified that they did receive it.
Chris, would that be for the ZBA you're talking about? It sounds like they all received it for the planning. Do you think they should go back in front of the ZBA for this?
Once anybody can, any party that is agreed by the decision of the ZBA, it's a final decision that needs to be taken to the circuit court. The township can't do that. Any private citizen can file that, those legal papers with the circuit court appealing the decision by the ZBA. But once it goes to the ZBA and requirements are met, that's the point of having the ZBA make those decisions, is because the township is out of it. So if you're aggrieved by that decision, then you can appeal it to circuit court. That's the apparatus that's already set up, but the township shouldn't send it back to the ZBA and say, we don't necessarily like your decision, make a different one. That's the separation of powers, basically. If there's a notice issue that goes into it, then it can be remedied through additional public hearings. And it just, because, setting that up costs money to the township. Trying to get the word out is always best. If the plan is to already table the decision, it's not going to necessarily create additional meetings, or it creates more additional notice, but it sounds like that's a good thing. So having that discussion, requiring them to be at the follow-up meeting, that's all good in my opinion. And it creates or gets rid of any idea that, this wasn't trying to attempt to put everybody on notice. So, but asking it to go back to the ZBA is not something that this board should take any action on.
Nope.
It's the decision of the ZBA. There's a private remedy to appeal that decision, which of course anybody can take, but it's not the township's decision to meddle in. Mr. Chair.
And I agree with that. That decision is final. Anything goes to the zoning board of appeals, it's final. If you don't like it, you go to circuit court. That's why we have the ZBA. It's the last thing. If you, let's say you wanted a variance on something and we said, no, it doesn't fit the ordinance, you could go to the ZBA. And if they agree that your variance on whatever you want is given to you, it's done. It's over. You get that, you would grant that variance. So I agree with that. To go back to them, they've already made their decision regarding this site and that.
Yes.
So I'm on the ZBA, guys, and this, it wasn't about, us giving permission to put the power here. It was about a setback rule. I don't remember, I don't have my ZBA notes in front of me, but from if I remember from memory, and Eric maybe can correct me, but our ordinance was actually outdated. The law or the rule had changed of the fall distance. So when we looked at it, it wasn't just, oh, well, there's a cable and it falls on the south. Somebody said engineers are wrong all the time. Yeah. But we did look at that, and it wasn't just us just making a willy-nilly. It was the FCC actually regulates a lot of that. And if I remember right, Eric, maybe you can correct me, but it was their fall distance is not the same as ours, and we need to amend our ordinance. So not that maybe there'll be more cell towers. Maybe we should do that preemptively. But it was if they decide to move their location. But yeah, the ZBA was just making a decision on the setbacks. Yeah. So we granted them that because the FCC regulates that fall distance, and we were off. We need to correct our ordinance.
Yeah, and if I can elaborate just on it, at the time that ordinance was in effect, it was the old towers, they had the guide wires, you'd see the guide wires. Well, now the engineers are saying, well, you don't need the guide wires. So when that ordinance was put into effect, it was still guide wire. So if it fell, it's one piece, it falls over.
was that what it was worded, our ordinance?
Yeah, so.
Now, as far as setback goes, I know you include fall distance and all that stuff, but radiation distance, it should be a setback. It includes.
And that's
that.
regulated by the FCC.
But
I know
there's
this isn't
gonna be a
Q&A,
second
but-
public comment, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
if you'd wait for that. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Sorry for the interruption.
I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, that's all right, that's all right, no, it's. Yes, sir.
And just for a little additional clarity, the role of the planning commission is not to approve or not approve. It's to approve or, not, let me restate that, not to approve or disapprove either the use or the dimension. It's to approve or not approve the applications and then make a recommendation to the board of trustees who ultimately makes that decision. The role of the planning commission is to look at the ordinances that are in place, say, or look at the application, whatever it may be, does it conform with the ordinances that are written? If it doesn't conform with the ordinances that are written, let the applicant know what the issues are, how to rectify it, and then once a full, complete application is done, they look at it and say, okay, this conforms with it or it doesn't. It's not going to be approved because of X, Y, and Z, or it is going to be approved because it meets all of our requirements. If it meets all the requirements and it's a permitted use or permitted use with subject to conditional approval, does it meet those standards? And if it does, it's permitted. So if cell towers are permitted in certain zoning, or you can't just do it, can't say no, we're not doing this because of this, that opens the township up to lawsuits as well. As long as I've represented, with our firm represented Thetford, we're always gonna get threatened with lawsuits. Everything we do is potential to lawsuit. Anybody can sue anybody if you have $175 and you can put it on a document and get somebody served with a lawsuit. So whether it's the residents are going to be the aggrieved party that sued, or the property owner who has a permitted use potentially on their property that is being prevented from exercising their rights to use their property, it's going to end up in a lawsuit in someone's mind. But the goal and the only thing that the planning commission should be focusing on is meeting the requirements of the ordinance as it's written, and then making sure the applicant is submitting the proper documents. So that said, if there's a question about it, I know that the township has employed a planner. I mean, you can also say, we would like to submit this to our township planner to see if there's any issues with the application and if it does meet the requirements of the township ordinance, and to verify the setbacks, the dimensional requirements and everything else. I mean, that's the beauty of employing professionals for that stuff, is that they can make their professional determination, give you hard data of, what the site plan is required. Does it meet those? Because I don't know all the law. There's a lot of times when I sat up here and I'm asked a question about something, I say, listen, I don't know that statute, but give me time to review it, and then I'll come back to you with an answer. And I don't think I'd be asked to be back up here if I didn't come back with an answer, whether the board has liked it or not. Same thing with a township planner or any planning department worth their salt, is they're going to give you the answer. They're not going to give you necessarily an opinion of, well, if you do this politically, it's going to be bad for you because the residents are going to like it. Well, if you do this politically, it's going to be bad for you because the cell phone company is not going to like you. They're going to say it meets this requirement because is within the setback distance. It doesn't meet this dimensional requirement because the square footage is too big for the envelope of the building. It doesn't meet this requirement because our gables need to be at this sort of ratio. So you're going to get that kind of answer. I think with both of these, at least with the cell tower, I think it's a very good idea to maybe submit to them and get the full picture. I don't know if you have done that, and if you have, I apologize. But to get an entire picture of what the ordinance requires and what the plans that they have submitted. Secondly, it'll give a fresh look at that ordinance. I know that you guys have been doing work with a planner on redrafting some of the ordinances. So, I mean, anytime you're getting a site plan review, whether if it's questionable or you think that there's holes inside the ordinance, I would be taking that application and say, can we please send it to our planner to make an opinion letter on where this is going and, you know, so that, you know, we're not bouncing ideas back and forth and well, I think it says this, I think it says that. Just send it to a planner who is much more adept at making those recommendations and submitting that type of document that makes it easier for you guys to make a decision and you have the best information available to you, as well as residents of the township know that, you know, a professional mind adept in planning is reviewing the decision. And it's based on evidence and not arbitrary or capricious data.
Just gonna, just to tap off that a little bit there that, and I don't want to take too much more time with that, but because we're in the process of reworking the master plan, I don't know if that's in a position to use the planner rate at this point, because we haven't finished the master plan, any changes.
The master plan will only come into play if you're looking at rezonings typically.
Okay, and the second thing I just wanted to point out to the audience is that's an approved use on that land. So every land has a permitted use. That is a permitted use. Just to put that into perspective is, you know, we're not jumping out of the box here. It's a permitted use in that area. So, okay, I'm done, Kevin. Take charge there.
You've been helpful, thank you.
Gary, you want to make any comments on the tower?
Yeah. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gary Tilson. I'm starting my second year in the planning commission, and I find it very interesting. Every month we're here, and the people that come to the meeting are the ones where there's a proposal to do something in their backyard. Quite frankly, and when we're not talking about something in your backyard, you're not here. Just so you guys know, if you go to Genesee County Deeds, there's applications right now to put 1,640 acres of solar in Thetford Township. Well, thank you. And that's why I was at that podium for about 2 years screaming and ranting and raving and threatening everybody up here with lawsuits and to take their livelihood, send them to prison, and make all kinds of problems. And so Rachel said, well, you're so smart, why don't you sit up here? Be careful. Kind of, but I'm glad to serve. So my point is, you know, I understand the emotionally charged. I'm there, but just because there's a little thing here, we're all residents. We all want, you know, there's about 7,000 of us here in Thetford Township. We like our bedroom community. We like our quality of life here. And, you know, I was excited that, you know, master planning hasn't been visited since 1989. You know, if you start envisioning, it's not what it could look like. Great place to raise kids, have parks, bike paths. There's a lot of stuff. I don't want junkyards and solar towers and windmills and cell towers and all this other stuff, and all before you know it, we're all living in the middle of dirt highway junkyards and wonder how it happened. And it happened one decision at a time, and nobody can understand why. So, you know, this cell phone tower thing, I don't know enough about it. When I hear cell tower, I automatically assumed it had to do with phones, but it's also internet service. So apparently they got by without it for 8 years. I don't know what a few more months is going to hurt. If they would have built it, quite frankly, in 2017, we wouldn't be sitting here. You would have had to make a decision if you guys were going to build those houses. Maybe you would have, maybe you wouldn't have, you probably would have. It's easy now to say you wouldn't have, but who knows? You don't know what would have happened. But if they would have done it, we wouldn't be talking about this for an hour and a half. I know we had HughesNet. My wife works from home. We're on Vassar Road, and you know, where they want to put 1,600 acres of solar and blah, blah, blah. But we had HughesNet, and it was horrible. I mean, she's on conference call there. I mean, it was just absolutely horrible. For a year now, we've had Starlink, and it's, man, I haven't missed a beat, and it's twice as fast, and it's terrific. I mean, so I think there's other solutions. I don't know, these cell towers, I don't know if in America, I don't know if they need one every mile, every 2 miles, every 5 miles. I don't really understand it enough. You know, I think they should be in either commercial or out, or we're going to go to satellite, and cell towers are going to be a thing of the past. I don't know. The threat of the lady saying, you know, you're stopping me from getting $900 a month. That's not, you know, we're not here trying to do that. But I also see people sitting over here saying, you know, demanding an improved internet and cell phone service on Genesee Road or in that area. So, you know,
every month it's gonna be something interesting. If we say no to there, we're gonna move it over to Gray Road or Lewis Road. It's gonna be a different group of beautiful people standing there screaming at us. It's just, and you guys be home having dinner instead. Yeah, and so these things are, it's the same thing on the next topic, that's, it gets emotionally charged as well. So just so everybody knows, in the residents, I always said that, I'm first for the residents. I love to see, we've only got 24,000 acres to work with in this township, and once it's filled up, it's filled up. And it's done. So I think we gotta be pretty judicious and use caution and long-term thinking when it comes to how we're gonna fill up that 24,000 acres. Quite frankly, about 20,000 of it's already filled up. So, there's really not that much open land left. So having said that, the cell phone tower, it's already gone 8 years. I don't, if we still need cell towers, put it out in the middle of one of these 100-acre fields or, somewhere away from anything else. I have no idea. But the threat, the ongoing threat of radiation, and it makes me wonder, it's all invisible. If it wasn't invisible, what would it look like? All these cell phones and internet and everything else, I have no idea. I mean, I've heard of people dying, they're done salesmen on their cell phone for 20 years and getting brain damage. I don't know. There's so much on the internet, so much information. I don't know what's true and what's not true. But, John says this is improved use, for that land. I'm not really sure why, but I don't really understand the zoning thing that thoroughly enough to really weigh in on that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with holding off and sending this back for review. Those are my comments. Yeah, Jason. I think we should hold it off and take that for review.
Consensus to.
Okay, so I did take a couple notes from you guys' questions. I know that we're in discussion right now. So somebody said something about the parks. I'm glad that was already brought up. They went there first. They don't do it. Somebody said something about a beacon on it. There's no light on it. That's why they keep them under 200 feet. Because they're, then they don't have to put a beacon on it, which to me seems crazy. That still seems, if I was an airplane, I don't know, but whatever, that's what they said. This was like an FCC mandate that they do something in this area. And I don't know what goes into, maybe we need to find this out, what goes into where they pick a spot. Okay. From my understanding, when I drove by too, it looks like this is going to be behind a whole bunch of trees. So I don't know if you'll probably still see it out your window. I can see the Embassy 25 house tower from my window, and I'm 6 miles away, so I'm sure you can see it. The lady that was here, I don't remember, Eric, it was like 20 some years. She said she worked on the job. We did ask about how many of these have ever collapsed and do they really fall on themselves. And she manages like the whole Midwest of where these go. And in her 18 years or 28 years, I don't remember how long, it was lots of years, they have never even had one fall. So if that was a concern, that came into our decision. I've been throwing notes all over because everybody's been talking, but somebody said something about property values going down, and believe it or not, property values can actually go down when people don't have access to internet. I'm a real estate agent by trade in my day job, and I have a guy who lives out in that area, right across from Lake Island, and he loves his house. It's his family house. His last name is even Farron. Like but he wants to sell his house because he works from home and he can't get internet. And I'm surprised he wasn't here saying, please put this in. Because he called me to sell his house and he's like, this is the family house, but I work from home. I need internet. And he was even joking, there's a box down there. And he's like, somebody just runs that into that with their car and maybe I'll get internet. But this was an FCC mandate that this area was chosen for whatever reason because of the schools. So there was some stuff that went into that. So, and I already talked about the old rules of the setback and why we made the decision to change that was because the rules have changed. Our ordinance 1989. Okay, you said they had guidelines. I didn't even think of that. So that's all I have, trying to answer some of your guys' questions. As far as the cancer stuff goes, I don't know. Probably we need to look into that. But I think more like somebody already said, holding this thing to my ear is probably way worse than any cell phone tower. I don't live right next to it, might be different. So I don't know, just my 2 cents from being on the ZBA, why we made our decision. And, I know they want this area. I don't know how much research they've done, where they picked, but it's supposed to be off the road behind some trees. I don't know how we'll see it. So I don't know, just
Will do. It's literally like,
It's
right there,
it's
across,
actually-
it's across my driveway.
I mean, I
It's
can,
actually gonna be in my horse pasture is what it's gonna be in.
I can see that one on Lewis Road since my question was actually somebody put a beacon on that. And when it was a foggy night, I thought it was like Batman calling. I mean, I could see it. I live on Herd Road, 3 miles away. So yeah, I can see why the beacon would be, but I understand, just to try to squash some of that stuff. So we did have a lady here explaining all of this. Wish you guys would have been there because it would have been great to hear it.
I didn't know.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Wish we knew.
I don't know, but yeah, sorry.
Well, let's make a plan. I think we're in agreement to table it and we will, get with the company, try to get some more.
It's included in your motion, that the planning commission can direct that, not necessarily the board make action, but can, commission work to be performed by, township employees or contractors, so. I would just include that in the motion that you recommend to the township that they, or the township supervisor, the commission, my brain's starting to not work. Commission the township planning to, render an opinion on the site plan, and its conformity with the ordinance.
Okay, I happen to be the contact person for Wade Trim.
There you go.
So it falls right here. But I try to put a motion together that, I think we're gonna include a public, redoing a public hearing when we have them back. And maybe we can set up a, impromptu meeting with, two of us and the company prior to that meeting to convey what we need. And, maybe I can get Wade Trim to sit in on it with us. Just a conference of what would you consider? Would you consider this when we bring it back? Please bring all this information with you so we don't have to go again and again.
And I just offer a suggestion in there that then perhaps you should not do it at the next meeting until you get a response from them.
Right.
So your motion would not be to set up a public hearing or anything at this point, just that you're gonna contact the planner and you just so that we don't have a meeting set up and we're not ready, I guess is my point.
Okay.
However you want to word that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Let me take a shot at it here.
I would just say a motion to table it and for the township planner to render an opinion on the application as submitted. There, I cover it.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we table Skyway Towers cell phone or tower plan pending conference with our planning firm to go over the data application and pending a decision from them. That makes it.
Just know that they're gonna render an opinion.
An opinion from Wade Trim.
Then in the public hearing or no?
No, I'm not gonna I won't put public hearing in there because we'll wait till we get
Okay.
wait till we get an opinion back from them and then we will set up an agenda and put the 15-day notice in the paper and go through the process again.
And just one more thing, and at that point, maybe whoever the representative from the township is, could contact them with the opinion and say, look, this is the opinion, do you want to come back? Rather than bring them back, throw them the opinion and say, okay, and at that time, I think it would be a good time to, suggest that we would work with them if they come up with an alternate site regarding having to pay for another meeting. I'm not opposed to us working with them if they come up with that. But you can do that at the discussion you have personally or the supervisor with them, whoever.
You're gonna second.
I'll second it, yeah.
So I'm sorry, I didn't realize we didn't have a second yet.
No.
We're rambling.
Tammy, would you read the motion back for me?
I knew you were gonna do this.
You mean you didn't get that all?
Want to make sure that
Okay, tabling Skyway Towers cell tower, pending conference with planning firm to go over application and render an opinion.
Thank you very much. Let's roll call this one, please. We've got a second, so.
John Cogden.
Careful. Yes.
Jason Tardo,
Yeah.
Jason McConnell,
Yes.
Gary Tilson,
Yes.
and Kevin Lawrence.
Yes.
It's likely no. At the next meeting, so should we let?
I would have to wait till I see what wait term schedule is and. I don't think it'll be at the next meeting. Because, and we have to have a 15-day notice on top of that.
So maybe in March.
It might be March before we get anything into that.
If there's a public hearing, you theoretically are gonna get a no. So if you don't think she's got the right address after the meeting, you stop up. But it'll be 300 feet, including your back property. Any property that touches your property or that site, well, should get a no. That's how it works. 300 feet.
And we'll check with it, because like I say, it might be going to our, some,
Very possible to go to your mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
And shot of all the address label, that would still be there.
Okay, you might as well. We got another victim.
Okay.
You wanna do a 5-minute recess or?
Okay, a motion, we do a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 7:20. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
There's probably other people that wanna make a run there too.
Nothing want to take a break here.
Going on. That's what I do.
How many lawsuits can we have? You got a car, real estate.
No, I never have a car, I'm like.
I got a house in five. But the ZBA hasn't found some mother-in-law. Can be no good drivers at the board.
Yeah, we get stuck.
Just about 1.5 years.
I sent it.
Big ones, 1.5 no good. Yeah. Big ones. Yes.
The valley.
Nice.
I want to see about.
No, they don't. Gave them as a.
Time, 2007.
Because the original thing said, whatever the height of the tower is. It falls.
I don't know why that's not.
That's what the attorney was trying.
I'll get up.
There is those. Did they say?
Did you get?
I mean, something you think it- decision.
Just because I was right next to call you, you can call me. You don't have to. Yeah, I'm sorry to eat up. I yeah.
Same thing, Kevin.
Came down late, not him. You just need to be present. Ryan is still, right now. It's on. So Ryan is, that is not.
Amazing. My entire life. Except.
No, Genesee Road.
Is it different?
Because Ryan and his mom.
I don't know what that house is.
So that's why I said.
AT&T, vehicles there. At least they got an AT&T Beacon light, they put on it.
Give me when I need.
Yeah.
These stations, what they do is they put up a tower, they shoot it for this one station.
Yeah.
Another one.
By the way, Eric, so wait, Skyway still released on my driveway.
Yeah.
For them to build that.
Bridgeport.
To go, I don't even care, let's go marijuana. To go by the telephone.
Those are new on the top.
I go by the
They're my.
then they moved it to where they got the right truck downtown. Here we can.
I thought it was closed down.
I understand.
I think it will be abandoned at some point.
Thank you, I didn't know if you were hearing me right now or not. No, I just love. You know, I'm only availability Tuesday, Thursday. I'll just hide. Thank you so much.
That's the one thing, is like, if they were concerned about like possibly getting, you know, service for the kids. Like, you got the whole, cable coming down to the street now, so now there's.
So the gentleman.
Access down that area now because we
The blue with the hat. Yeah, his name down.
Like downward, like having hurricanes and all that stuff. Is how it's all pulled out. And it's actually got the emergency channel. There is a magic. Something happened where the cable went out. This house. The frequency.
Even more reliable.
Yeah. I realize. So that's what we talked about.
I just.
Said you got the address.
And I got the same research I did with like the cell phone.
You know.
I went my own.
Definitely.
All on itself and big cable. And so I'm like, great, what are you saying? No. So, you know.
If I was going about that.
Yeah.
And I knew, I heard it was supposed to go through when I first meeting, I was waiting to hear. What's it supposed to be, and then all of a sudden I heard about this one, I'm like, oh my God. So I just never got.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely.
Well, that was fair. So this is my wife right here. So.
So that's Kayla, yeah, they're my parents' daughters.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Then there was something he said.
I need to go talk to Paul.
I just.
Yeah.
There was something in there that was real big.
Sure that you guys get one.
It's not a bad.
Appreciate you guys.
Send a couple links. If you don't mind, we're I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I circled that zero item. Appreciate you.
But it doesn't mean we have to expand.
Gotta get the show on the road, so.
I wasn't trying to be.
I'll learn from you sitting out there.
Oh, mama puts you up there now?
Yeah.
You're in trouble?
I told him he goes back there.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion to reconvene our meeting at 7:21. Or, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
All opposed? Okay, 7:21, we're back. Okay, next item on the agenda is, Michigan Aspire LLC or Nerd Cannabis Grams, whatever name you decide to go by. They did, submit a site plan and special land use permit in May, I believe, and we tabled it to November. They came back in November. We had a discussion again. And we ended up tabling it again. There has been a public hearing on it, first time through. So we've had that. We had a lot of comments at the November 7th meeting, if you remember that correctly. And basically what it is they want to use, if you're not familiar with grams, you see 10 acres of the old ball fields from the Long Branch Bar that they had built behind the Long Branch. And they want to put a 6,000 plant outdoor grow in that area. And we have some concerns. I don't know where you want to start the discussion. I can start it, I guess, being that I'm still talking. I did walk some of the neighbors' property earlier this year before we had snowfall. I did note that several things for the benefit of the people sitting up here, that there is a county drain that runs through there. The name of it escapes me right now. It goes down through one side of the ball field, if I remember correctly, across the back of their building, it crosses over to the neighboring properties, heads over east towards Lewis Road, and it does turn south towards the roller rink. And it's actually, part of it is underground. It's not above the ground, from what I drew from the maps from the county. And I can't remember the name of the drain right now, but it is a county drain. And there was some concern because of the landscape. The ground is high to the north. The ground slopes from the north towards the south, towards Grant. So surface runoff water, that's probably the purpose of the drain, is to very surface runoff water out of there. The question was, would there be chemicals? This was brought up at the public hearing on chemicals getting into the runoff into that water. And there is horse pastures and stuff to the east. Would that affect the animals? It leach into groundwater? Would it leach into wells? I don't have answers to all that. That's something we have to kind of consider looking at. I never come across that. The main concern I have with it presently is twofold. One is this grow borders residential zone property. The previous grows that's been approved pretty much were into commercial areas. One does border a mobile home park. The other grows are situated in, so that it's commercial property, even though there's maybe houses on them. The property itself is zoned commercial. It's used as residential, but that's another point. And we do have a question in our zoning ordinance, if anybody's looked at that, and it's section 5.9 that reads, the first sentence is incomplete. It actually reads indoor operation as the category. And it says all activities of marijuana facilities, including without limitation, distribution, growth, cultivation, or the sale of marijuana and all other related activities permitted under the permit holder's license, and it ends there. It's an incomplete sentence. The next sentence that follows that is the facility's operation and design shall minimize any impact of adjacent uses, including the control of odor by maintaining and operating the air filtration system so that only minimal odor is detectable outside the permitted premises. I did do some research on that paragraph, that section, and it appears at one point the incomplete sentence was had the words shall be in it's 4 words. There's 4 words that escapes me right at the moment, but it implied that it would be an indoor operation, only occur indoors. And a previous planning commission, I found, voted to take those 4 words out of that ordinance prior to it being approved. However, they left the second sentence, they left just as I read it, which conflicts. As far as an outdoor grow with an odor, we all know that there's a consensus that there's an odor to an outdoor grow. That part troubles me. I did run that by Attorney Gilner, and he did agree that the first sentence is incomplete, but it does tend to imply that all operations are indoors. This is what me, myself, I'm bumping up against. I can't speak for the rest of the people here. Oh, I beg your pardon. One thing I have to do though is I have to ask if we go to decision, Mr. Tarno has to step down because he owns property within 300 feet of what we're talking about. I'm sorry, Jason, I forgot all about it. Was on my mind before the break and it fell out. But he's not permitted to weigh in on the discussion for conflict of interest. We have to declare him a conflict of interest solely because of the property ownership. That's the reason, and that's the state's recommendation also. Anyway, to continue, it troubles me that part of our ordinance says we have to have a minimal odor. It doesn't say what's minimal. I don't know. You know, I would say that only minimal odor is detectable. So I would say you'd have to sniff real hard to be able to know that it's there. That's my interpretation. I don't, I understand that from what I've studied that the odor occurs approximately from August, September, October. The fall season is the only time the odor occurs. I have looked on some studies and I've read up on what the odor is caused by, a chemical in the leaf, in the plant that reaction to odor. I have since discovered that there is a company that makes a misting system for grow operations to neutralize the odor. Which sounds intriguing. I don't know a lot about it because I've just recently discovered it. I'm not a grower, so this is where I have to rely on some of my representatives, you know, to dig into it. That being said, I don't know where we're at. I'm looking for opinions right now from the rest of it. Gary, John.
Sure. Go ahead, and then I'll follow up with what I had said.
If you feel that the ordinance as written is either incomplete or subject to interpretation, you could submit it to the zoning board of appeals to make it that exact determination on whether or not the zoning ordinance itself permits indoor or outdoor grows. If that's if you feel that that's the actual question, then that would kind of frame it to the ZBA on whether or not they're even permitted, you know, and they could do the investigation into the history of what was approved by the planning commission versus what was approved by the board. If there was some difference between the planning commission and board approval, if they were to make that determination of, okay, so the ordinance does permit outdoor grows, then let's look at the site plan and everything else. If the ZBA makes that decision to it's not permitted, then that they can't do an outdoor grow, you know, then you're looking at the site plan just for the additional building and not so much the use. So.
That's interesting.
Well, how does that address the outdoor grows that are presently?
It doesn't. I mean, if somebody was given a permit that, you know, we can't just take those back, you know, you can, that's definitely a lawsuit. But if those people, if they do an expansion, if they come back for additional assessment for expanded use, then they wouldn't be able to do that because it would be an expansion of a legal non-conforming use.
Even with the special land use.
Even with a special land use. I mean, a special land use that has been approved, it's a special land use. You know, it's not our job to look back and say, this is right or wrong. We're looking at the ordinance as it is in front of us today.
Are you done there, Kevin?
Yes.
Well, just two things. I have a couple other items, but just to address that part of it right now. And for me, I don't care what this ordinance used to say. This is the ordinance you presented in front of me. This is the ordinance I'm going with. I'm not going to speculate what used to be, or it's just like them guidelines. This is what I have to work with. This is what you make your decision on. And so that's just for that part of it.
Just to add it, the biggest thing is just not making decisions that are arbitrary and capricious are those words that come up. And it's just looking at the facts, looking at the ordinance, making a decision based on the ordinance as it's written, asking for an interpretation, asking for professional input. You're basing your decision on facts and evidence and facts and circumstances that conform with the zoning ordinance and with the community, with the residents' input, you know. So
then about my opinion about the permit as it stands, it's I looked at that and I took his dimensions, and that site is bordered just a hair. I mean, literally 2 feet under 50% on residential sides, the back, the north and the east side. And so I did the perimeter of that. So it's almost 50%. It's 2 feet less is exposed to residential sides. And then, you know, to the wind thing, then I actually just wanted to see if, you know, because I have to question, is that true? And it said, you know, winds are primarily out of the southwest during the summer and northwest during the winter. Well, either one of those parameters blows the wind either directly on either way, it's all the wind is going to residential property. So that's a little concern for me. And for me, the size of this, if they would have come here and said, I want 2,000 plants and I'm going to put them at the very back corner away from the residential, strictly commercial side, I would have had to take that a little more seriously. When you're asking for 6,000 plants, it borders 50%, just under 50% on residential property. That's a concern for me. So did I cover all my concerns? Yes, that's it. That's my opinion on this applicant versus what we have to deal with today.
Jason. Yeah.
Got a couple things. So, I think it's funny how people always like to give their opinion of marijuana. It's irrelevant what my opinion is, right? Somebody asked me recently, you know, they were talking about putting a marijuana dispensary in Lapeer. And, everybody, you know, so you're the planning, what do you think? How did the voters vote? And they couldn't tell me. I had to text Kevin. He sent me a link where you could look up how people voted. And in that area, it did not pass. I mean, it passed statewide, but the voters there said they didn't want it. Okay, so my opinion, if I was on that planning board, would be no. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, here in Thetford Township, it was 59% of residents voted for proposal A to pass. So if that number being so hard, and then you know, other data that we receive, which you know, master plan survey goes to select few, and I found out that children can take the survey, so you know, it might, you know, but even on that, they 52% of the survey people said there were too many grows, and 25% had no opinion, and someone said it was just you know, so we have a majority that wants it, you know, 59%. So sometimes when I look at my decisions, that's how I look. How did the voters say they wanted it? And then now we have one marijuana grow that's already an outdoor grow that we've already allowed. So, you know, potentially, you know, if we say no to these guys, there could be a lawsuit. We don't want that. The ordinance doesn't talk about it. I love the idea of ZBA, you know, taking a look at it and cleaning that up, because that right there would solve some of it. Now, I thought it was great, Sir, you had mentioned that you live right over there and you don't smell it.
I do.
And I noticed that you had said, somebody else in the audience said that there was a fence and they couldn't smell it. So I don't know if that's also a little grow that's not 6,000.
I live right in the middle of that area and I don't.
But that's an indoor grow, so like it's really not the same comparison, I think, being outside. But you know, it all comes down to smell. I think sitting on this planning board, the three things we get yelled at the most is one, solar, they don't want to look at it. Two, marijuana, they don't want to smell it, and we have a wedding venue that's running, they don't want to hear it, right? I don't want to hear it, I don't want to see it, I don't want to smell it. You know, and I don't know, that's just my opinion on it. We don't have clarification, we don't have enough information to make a decision today. It is my thought, and I didn't know that the ZBA was an option, so we can clean that ordinance up. Or we can clean it up as the zoning board, I believe. We can clean it up as a zoning board and say, let's bring this to the next meeting and let's talk about outdoor grows. What's gonna be is it gonna be 50% or whatever? Is it gonna be 15? Right now, the law says 1,000 feet from a church, or I'm sorry, from a school or so right now that's limited. And I believe that this ordinance, if someone finds it too restrictive, is this similar to like solar where they can just skip us and go to the state law? I know it's different. Okay.
They have to go through it.
So, and I think somebody had brought up about the ag, and I remember hearing all about that on this planning commission, how Mr. Gunnels had really pushed for it to get put into ag and got laughed out of the room about it. And now you got you guys going, why isn't this in ag? It's like, you know,
It really should be.
that was something that, you know, sad Mr. Gunnels got laughed out of the room for that, when it was obviously something that might have made more sense at the time. I wasn't here when that went down. So kudos to you apologize for you getting laughed at about it, but you know, and now we're talking about it. Now it's another issue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like the idea of tabling it until we, maybe sending it to ZBA. Or we clean up the ordinance, one or the other.
No, I'm just gonna throw my point in here. My point is, you tabled this twice. And if it was up to me, I would think you should give these people, make a decision. And quit dragging them down the road. Either, you know, we are or we're not. That's just my opinion, because 2 tables already. What's your limit? Can you do one more? I don't know if you can do one more.
Would we, if we were to make a decision on this, I'll address this to Chris, if we were to make a decision on this tonight, it's just our recommendation to the board of trustees.
Right.
We would be kicking it to them. If they wish to have the ordinance clarified, they could send it to ZBA. Or to make a more informed decision, so to speak.
They could.
You know, because the final decision ultimately does rest with them.
Correct.
That's another thought. We were asked by the Board of Trustees, the Planning Commission was asked to address this part of this ordinance. We had a moratorium on any grows, but it's on our docket, but it's been a low priority because of this solar issue that we spent months and months and months on. And I will throw in reference to Mr. Gunnels and his ag property that the state, the first mandate from the state was that marijuana grows be done on industrial or agricultural property. That was the recommendation from the state of Michigan. Thetford chose to go a different direction ultimately. Yes, sir.
So just so you're aware and everyone's aware, the original decision that you're talking about was based upon the medical marijuana law of 2017 passed by the Michigan legislature. And that was that language originally, just like you said, it gave those zoning, limitations. And then when the 2018 law passed, that was when the Michigan residents and the voters voted on that law, and that law superseded the old 2017 law and basically made it so that all commercial properties, agricultural property could be done and used on that. That was for that. Just to give you an idea, the Supreme Court of Michigan views the 2018 voter referendum of marijuana. The Michigan State Supreme Court views that as that law supersedes Michigan State legislature. The reason they made that ruling is because a voter referendum, or anytime a question by the voters is put before the people, it is, as they quoted in there, it is constitutionally enacted by the people. Therefore, it is upheld as a higher authority of law, and that is the basis.
Okay, thank you. What I would like to say is that we revisit our ordinance and maybe put outdoor grows in ag property. And that would eliminate a lot of the issues. Any future outdoor grows would be allowed on ag property. And then we put some language in there to address specifically where an ag property, and if they have to be set back from homes, houses, but that's a moot point too. Gary, would you like to weigh in on this discussion here?
Yes. So we've been talking about this for several months. And for those of you who have been here and listening, I have pretty strong opinion about the things that we do during our terms, whether we're here for 3 years or 6 or whatever, be long-standing for decades. That we're not just making, John said, hey, we've tabled this twice, let's make a decision. And I appreciate that. But the truth of the matter is, I think this township is riddled with things that have been rushed through. And everybody just says, well, that was the founding fathers, or that was people before, and that was a mistake, and it was an exception, and it was an exception, and it was an exception. And all the exceptions end up being a bunch of stuff that everybody's embarrassed about, but nobody's responsible for that's still alive. And so whenever we talk about this ordinance, I'd like to, instead of every month, this feeling like an ongoing on the fly negotiation, we're kind of making it up as we go. It'd be nice to say,
here's our ironclad ordinance. It's very clear when a license comes and it butts up against a residential property, it's outlined here. It's very clear what's approved and what's not approved. If it butts up to commercial, if it butts up to agricultural, it's very clear. I have very little confidence that we have that right now. I know we don't have that right now. We're not prepared to vote on this. My feeling and what I've read, I mean, when you read these articles, any outdoor grower around this country there's a whole group threatening lawsuits. Okay, so everybody threatens lawsuits, but all over the state of California, Santa Barbara, that whole area, they're doing these large scale grows, and the ocean breeze comes in, and these people can't even leave. They have to leave for the summer. So that's not how we want to live here. I don't, right off the top of my head, having driven down Francis Road and looked at your houses and all that kind of stuff, that's not the right spot for an outdoor large scale grow. Outdoor grow should be on agricultural. I have 7 farms. If I don't like the smell of it, I'll just buy 6,000 pigs, and then we'll have a real argument. And so that's my opinion. I don't think that's the right place, and I think that we really need to look at this ordinance and make something ironclad, so we're not sitting here every month trying to negotiate on the fly on a case by case basis. Those are my comments. Okay.
I'm just gonna tag onto that a little bit. I agree with your assessment, and I think we should make a separate motion, irrelevant to this case, to get involved in that and have some clarification made. But the agenda on the table today is, you going to recommend this or not recommend it? So it's fine if the board wants to kick it down for 8 months, 10 months, a year, because that's what it's going to take to get that resolved. Or do you want to make a determination of it? And for me, I would make a recommendation today to make a choice with this, and then make a board motion to follow up and get.
So if we vote on the license at hand, you're saying vote on what they're asking for. They paid a fee to put in the license, and probably, I don't know what it was, probably considerable, and let's just say we lean towards no.
Okay,
let's just and then we revisit this ordinance, and over 4 or 5 months from now, we got an ironclad ordinance, and that ordinance turns out that it's supports putting an outdoor grow there up to 2,000 plants or whatever, 3,000 plants, who knows? Anyway, should that happen in that sequence of events, I don't think that Graham should have to repay to apply. That's the only conflict. I don't think that they should have to resubmit and reapply. So I'm prepared to vote on this. I know how I'm going to vote. Just be transparent.
Let me ask Chris, if you don't mind. Is there any liability to for the board to make a recommendation to the board either way in this application?
It's the same. It's the same either way.
It's the same either way.
If you make a recommendation of no, any resident, if you make a recommendation of no, they could appeal that decision to the ZBA.
Sure.
If you make a recommendation of approved, any resident or anybody abutting who is an aggrieved party under what those terms mean, it's not just economic interest, it's actually an aggrieved party under the law. So the only reason I'm saying that is because just because you don't like the decision doesn't mean you're an aggrieved party. It's a legal definition, which is a lot more than just those 2 words. But any aggrieved party could appeal the decision made by the planning commission.
To the ZBA.
To the ZBA.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then to piggyback on top of that, if you're just looking at making a recommendation, it's just that it's still the board's decision to actually approve. So, and you can't separate it from asking for an interpretation for that, whether it's allowed or not allowed, and still make a recommendation, either approve or recommending not approving. Yes. But if you do make the decision to not approve, I would just make sure that it's based on the ordinance of why you're not approving. or their input.
Well, and so that brings me to a follow-up question for you. In light that this is the first application that is directly adjacent to residential property, would that be considered out of the realm of the ordinance? Or would that be a factor that you could?
What does the ordinance say?
Doesn't address it.
So if it doesn't address it, then it shouldn't be necessary. If you want it to be addressed, and there's been public input that says that it shouldn't be, if you're basing your decision on that, I would just, if it's not addressed in the ordinance, then.
Well, it is addressed with the smell part. Number 9 is definitely addressed directly to this application.
So based on the ordinance and the input from the community of having issues with smell, then that's a factor to think over when you've made your decision one way or the other. And it's always a balancing act of the property owner's rights versus the residents versus the permitted use versus the special, conditions for giving a permit. So.
Well, that's just, and that's kind of where I'm at with this particular location in its location, and it's addressed 6,000 in a different area. May not be a thing, but in this area, it's right there. There's no way to avoid it for me.
Yeah, and even though Graham's has been silent in this meeting, they weren't silent in the past. I just want to speak on their behalf, if I could, just for a second, and not so much in the defense, but just on their behalf. They did publicly state and stress that they want to be a good neighbor. They're not looking to come in here and shove this down Thetford Township's throat and down the Francis Road residents' throat and all that they want to be a good neighbor. They were willing to participate in a workshop that we had talked about in November that didn't materialize. So it's not like they're the lack of a better word, bad guys that are just in here trying to railroad Thetford Township and take over. They stress they want to be good neighbors. They stress that they're willing to do a lot of things. I don't really think that we've let that avenue really play itself out on options to make this more tolerable. So we got 2 paths here. One, we have an ordinance that has to really clear cut address commercial to commercial, residential to residential, ag to ag, and all of those kind of things. But in their defense, they did stress that they want to be a good neighbor. They don't want to be the villain. And so we have to take that into consideration that they didn't come in here as the bad guy. They wanted to be a good neighbor and work with us. But I just don't think on our end, not on their end, on our end, we're not prepared for that.
And that would be a valid reason to table it, to give them time.
Kevin and I just started researching this stuff about cannabusters and these other deionizer kind of things. There's new technology out that might be able to address this. We're just learning about it over the last 48 hours. And there's a lot more to research. So, like I said, I think about things in 20, 30, 40 years, not January, February, March. So, we only have so much land and so much use and so many residents here, and we want to enjoy a good quality of life. So not that we're dragging our feet, but let's learn as fast as we can and make thoughtful decisions that we can look back on 10, 20 years from now and say, yeah, we did the right thing. That's it.
I got something just reading, what we're actually looking at. They want to build a facility and they want 3 Class C recreational outdoor grows. Our ordinance doesn't talk about what we got to do with outdoor grows, okay? But it does say, just to sum it up, including the control of odor by maintaining and operating an infiltration system. So the minimal odor is detected outside the permitted premises. Obviously, smell is the biggest issue. If there is these machines or whatever, let's say that there's a huge complaint, and they're not doing it, then the code enforcer, I'm assuming, gets involved, attorneys get involved. I'm not sure what happens if they breach that. But right now, it's not in there, so we can't. If it said no outdoor grows allowed, it would be easy. We wouldn't even be talking, but it doesn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
It talks about outdoor odor and maintaining that. So
not to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that in my mind need to be quantified in this business that can be measured. And we haven't quantified anything. How do you measure odor? What's acceptable? What's not?
Right.
You know, and sound it's decibels. How do you measure, you know, in the ordinance, it says something, you know, tolerable or whatever. I have no idea what that means. You know, I mean, it's just nonsense to me. So, you know, I just think in the practical terms and, you know, and maybe Grams, you can't grow anything this year outdoors and you're gonna lose a year. I'm sorry. But
We want to get this right.
but we want, we, in fairness to the township and everybody involved, we own it to get this thing right. And when I think about, you know, living there next door and I'm like, oh, you guys felt pressure to hurry up and push something through. And I'm a nurse going to, and I'm not getting raises or promotions because I smell like marijuana every day and my kids are getting harassed at school because everybody's got, you know, problems. That's not acceptable. So, you know, you start reading these articles and there's, you know, people claim there's a lot of health things, psychological headaches, you know, from continued exposure to the smell, could be respiratory. I don't know. It's the same thing with the cell tower. You know, the radiation is going to give us brain damage, long-term exposure to the aroma of all of that. It's going to give you respiratory problems and psychological headaches and these kind of things. I don't know. But in the meantime, you know, Grams on their behalf has said that they want to be a good neighbor. They're not pushing something that, you know, we don't want, but we've got to get our end right.
And how would that look in a motion? He asked, curious.
Yeah, somebody smarter than me. So
Say that it could be a motion table or a motion to approve or recommend approval or denial. If you're tabling it, there should be a reason why you're tabling it. It could be either for an interpretation from the ZBA or a letter from Wade Trim potentially for their opinion on whether or not it conforms, or recommendation of approval or denial.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If we recommend to deny, it still goes to the board of trustees for an interpretation. And then that kind of puts the ball in their court to decide.
Correct.
I guess what I'm uneasy with is we, as planning commission, have already tabled it twice. We tabled it again, we're back to more discussion. And I see the flip side that says, you know, well, the ordinance is kind of gray, we need to, but how many times, I guess,
There's not a set amount of times that you're not
how many
supposed to.
times can we table something?
You can table something as long as they, you know, until they sue to say you got to make a decision. I mean, it really comes down to that. Like until there's court intervention, the board is going to do whatever it wants to do and make the decisions that it wants to deliberate on. There's not a steadfast rule regarding tabling. The big thing with tabling and moratoriums is that you're doing it for a reason and it's not arbitrarily being done just because we don't want to make a decision or we want a moratorium because we're worried about making a decision. Moratoriums, you need to have them last a period of time to allow you to get the information so that when you're making a decision, you're doing it on the most confident and latest evidence or information that the board is working off. With tabling it, you're tabling it to either gather more information or for an interpretation. It's not just because, well, we just want to put it off.
Yes, no, table it in a motion in regards to researching that missing system to see if that's a valid.
But is that in the order?
No, it is not.
So it shouldn't be in the.
So you really can't address it because it's not in.
Other than outdoor grows isn't clearly defined. So you can make a motion to.
So
let's
I mean,
fix the ordinance.
from what I'm hearing is that the interpretation needs to happen of whether or not, you know, you feel comfortable permitting the outdoor grow under the way that the ordinance is written now. Because or just, you know, it's been mentioned, just either approve or deny, and then it becomes a topic for the board of trustees. Because you're working with the ordinance that is approved. So if it's lacking,
That's
the
kind of-
body that needs to, work with it too is the Board of Trustees, so.
And I see.
And that's why I agree with that. I think we need to deal with this one. And then I think, we could, but we can also, when we deal with this, we could recommend to the board to review this and give us.
I didn't mean to cut you off, so I apologize. But the planning commission can review the ordinances that.
Okay, so we could handle that. So we could just deal that, get that started on our next agenda.
We're probably gonna have a public hearing for that, huh?
Only if you're voting to change it. I mean, you can set it, if you're planning on changing it at that meeting or just having a discussion, that's two separate things. For a proposed ordinance to change, you gotta have a public hearing, notice, all of those things.
So change or add, same thing, right?
Right, so
We need
there
to
would
do that.
basically
We should
be
do
a
that.
meeting for discussion.
Yeah.
And then you propose the changes and then following meeting, there would be public hearing. And then before it's adopted, then the board would publish it. All, those are separate requirements.
In fairness to the Board of Trustees, we're a layer of thinking that are supposed to do this. I don't support just moving it to the Board of Trustees to do our thinking for us. That's not how the organization's set up. Okay, my concern also with tabling it again was that these guys are a business. And they have to, if it does get approved, they have to make a plan to set up their crop and their property and stuff for this coming growing season. So I guess that's part of why I kind of wanted to push for some kind of decision, yay or nay today, so that it can move to the Board of Trustees, because it wouldn't move to the Board of Trustees until February. And if they tabled it for a month to discuss or whatever.
Missed the window.
But I, there again, if we don't have any legal ramifications from tabling it again until we get an interpretation of the ordinance or
Why was it tabled before last meeting?
we were gonna have a workshop with the companies and with the residents and see if we could work on some middle ground that was a little give and take on both sides. And
So a workshop that could lead into a public hearing, could lead into a ordinance cleanup.
and ordinance cleanup. Quite frankly, with what we've got to do right now and make a decision, we're kind of straddling the fence to deal with quite a bit. If I'm on grounds and I'm listening to this, I'm gonna say, well, it sounds like decisions either you guys put it on hold until you work out your ordinance and get clarification, or say no, put it on hold until you can get it worked out. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I wonder about that because they're not here. We can't ask them because by the same token, here, okay. See, because we're not hindering them and, from doing enclosed growth. If this was down, you could submit a building and build a building and you could grow as many as you can put in there. So I'm not hampering your ability to do anything really other than outdoor growth. So by us saying no, now I'm not opposed, so you can, if the chairman doesn't mind, you could ask them how they feel about tabling it till, because you're on a deadline, not us. I mean, with what you gotta do by spring and all that, I don't know. But that's up to the chairman if he wants to, if you wanna let them.
Yeah, I welcome comments if you got a comment, because you've seen what we're facing, that in one sense, we don't want to hold unnecessarily hold you back. By the same token, we have to address the odor problem and being along the residential and with the odor flowing over the residential property. The real concern for the residents. And I don't, at this point, you've seen what our options can be. Like I say, my thought was just to push rather than kick the can down the road, to come to some kind of decision so that, where it's headed for this next season.
understandable. And I will, backpack off of what Gary said. We absolutely always, offered our friendly neighboring abilities to the properties around us. We were up for the workshop, but that, somehow never got put into play. I'm not sure where that went with things, if that was on our end or if it was on your guys' end. And again, I'm still absolutely open for the workshop. We'd love to, find a solution where everybody's happy, but, in a sense, you guys are stuck at a crossroads. We're a business allowed to do what we're allowed to do. And, you guys are also looking out for your residents. It's absolutely understandable. In a sense of us, getting plants into the ground, obviously that'd be ideal for us as a business, but it's not ideal for everybody else in the room. I hate to have to, keep coming back and pushing our side of the story as much as I'm sure you guys do the same.
Are you aware of any, we just pulled up this, system that claims that they, mitigate the odor from an outdoor?
Absolutely, yeah, there's foggers and misters and different, sorts of, contraptions that can contain the smell or, ionizers, things like that. And there was, talks of greenhouses at one point as well. Again, that would, kind of have to be for a workshop discussion, but, we were really open for conversation and nobody came to conversate.
Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for what happened there, but I would be happy at this point after hearing that to go to a table, set up a workshop, and you can put your cards out there, what you can do, what you can't do, we can, and then maybe we can come to an agreement. And so if we can make that workshop happen, I'd be happy to table this. I'd be very comfortable tabling it with a workshop after hearing,
And as much as I would love a decision being made today, we'd love to come to a conclusion.
Well, for me, any argument has two sides, and there's a compromise. A lot of our residents have zero compromising, but somewhere there should be a compromise in between, and maybe we can get there, maybe we can't. But if we don't talk, we can't. So I'm not opposed to that if the board would be. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, in my opinion, it seems like there's two things that need to happen. You guys need to clear your ordinance and whoever has a problem with our business, we need to sit down and have a conversation. That's
we did bring up the subject of the workshop at the November meeting, and it was a 2-2 vote to approve or disapprove. So being that ended in a tie, we didn't convene a workshop, so to speak, or a committee-like setting. I did have a workshop in December to just come in and discuss how to address outdoor grows. It wasn't specific to you. It was just address our ordinance with outdoor grows, give you some ideas of what we could use. If you didn't get notified, I'm sorry with that, but you didn't get a specific notification. I know a couple of residents came in. Some of our board of trustee members came, and we had the planning commission people here, and we kind of rolled over some ideas, but nothing concrete come of that. Matter of fact, my notes, we're still considering the greenhouses and as a possible solution, but then it was mentioned that the greenhouses would still produce an odor released. We didn't have a lot of information. I can't say it was really a successful discussion, but if we want to do two things, then do we want to table the decision on here and ask our ZBA to interpret the ordinance. The decision whether it does allow indoor, whether it does allow outdoor grows. There's that to the ZBA. And then in the meantime, we could still, if somebody's willing to chair a workshop and sit down with residents in the business and discuss it. I know our supervisor had talked to some of the residents and got ideas of what their issues were. Oh, quite some time ago. And I don't know, I don't want to talk in circles, but I'd like to see something concrete come out of this tonight. That's my personal. We move to something, whether we push it to the board of trustees for a decision on this particular item, or remove it from our agenda.
And we can take it to a vote if you want. I mean, at the end of the day, they're asking for a license. When you look into the ordinance, it doesn't say that it's not allowed. That's what I have the question. How do we?
I guess.
It also say it is allowed.
Like John over here, yeah, he was saying, 50% of this is butted up to residential. So right there, I would have to agree with him where that's where you, as a township and a state, because it should be on the state too, is if it's like 20%, 25% butted up to residential or a little more than that, so 50%, that's a lot of property to be butted up against.
Our duty,
6,000 for 6,000 plants.
the biggest challenge is our duty is to what's in the book. It doesn't say that. That should be in there. I agree. Maybe
I'm just saying.
the workshop and then the public hearing and then ordinance change is what needs to happen. At the end of the day, we're faced with, they want Class C recreational outdoor grow license. It's troublesome.
It is, and Chris's point was you could have that, you could send that to the ZBA, that section, and say, does this mean indoor or outdoor? Because frankly, if they come back and say, no, it doesn't mean outdoor, well, why are you gonna have a workshop? There's no sense having a workshop if it doesn't, so the ZBA meets once a month, so they'll have
It's us.
yes. So what's is there the third, what are they? They're the third?
Fourth Wednesday.
So the fourth Wednesday of next month. So that's when they would meet, and then and that would be, so then at the next planning commission, we could set a public hearing if that's, And and you could, I'm sure you could have Chris give you an opinion regarding his point of that if you needed it. The ZBA.
Which, okay, I'm back to be twixt and between, and I guess I'm looking for advice because this has just got me in a head spin here at the moment. What would you?
The three options are to approve, deny, or recommend approval or denial, or submit to the ZBA for an interpretation.
And then in that case, you don't even have to table it because it took it off the books. It's off the books till
It would be tabled.
Okay, we still have to table it. Why the ZBA?
Board asking for the ZBA for an interpretation.
Okay.
If the zoning ordinance permits outdoor grow, because it's not specifically stated.
Gary, I think, has an idea, and if you do, let's throw it out there and if make it as a motion, and we'll put support on it, do a discussion on it, and make a vote.
Right.
That'll. Got something to throw out there for us?
I think he's still
right.
I'm trying to put my thoughts together, but that's dinner time.
Just for sake of filling time, I'm not trying to avoid the opinion aspect, but as the counsel for the board, I really shouldn't be in helping making decisions, just trying to say what you can and cannot do and what the circumstance or the consequences of making.
Consequences of our action.
Yeah, so I don't want you to think I'm not trying to be helpful or.
No, I think you were very clear, up, down, or
Right.
table to the ZBA. This is your three
options that we have.
Yes, sir.
Available to us, and that's what I'm trying to wrap around is what are our options to go for tonight and like I say, my feeling is to you know, remove it from this board and on to the next board. That's just my feeling. Got three other fellows here, so.
Yeah, I don't know what the motion looks like, but I'll tell you, just open. If we take this license to a vote, this is the way I see it. I'm gonna vote no. I don't know how you guys are gonna vote. Doesn't matter to me at this point. I'm gonna vote no. You guys all vote yes and it passes. I think we did a travesty. I think that we didn't. I still think the board of trustees should not agree with this because we don't have a long-term indoor outdoor grow ordinance plan as ironclad. We just don't. So we can vote. I already told you how I'll vote, but I don't think under the circumstances that's fair to the company, that's fair to the township, that's fair to the people. So having said that, we got more work to do. I don't know what the motion looks like, but we have to go back and get this ordinance right. Well, however that That's
looks.
the idea. Can I make a motion?
Sure.
Let's make a motion to put this over to the ZBA from the up.
A second.
And you want to include that table it currently why it's going to the ZBA, correct?
Yes.
Table just pending a ZBA decision.
Well, just for,
First motion.
because the job of the ZBA isn't to clean up ordinance.
Oh.
The ZBA to interpret whether it includes indoor or outdoor grows in the ordinance itself because it's not specific listed. That is the job, that is a job of the ZBA to interpret the zoning ordinance as written.
And you can actually incorporate the ordinance number right there if you want to, if you feel compelled to, part of your motion, you want them to interpret.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to send this to the ZBA ordinance number 2024-02-15 for interpretation regarding outdoor grows.
Yes.
Is there still a second?
I'll support it. I'll support it. Any more discussion?
We've already beat it up.
Like we beat it up. Let's roll call the vote, Tammy, please.
Wait a minute.
Okay, just a minute.
Let her read that back and make sure. You got that where you want.
8 o'clock.
Okay, so now it's Jason instead of. Jason motioned to send it to the ZBA. I got the.
I'll get it, okay. Yep.
Regarding outdoor grows in the ordinance 2024-02-15.
Yes.
Can you say that 3 times backwards?
Absolutely.
That's good. All right.
This is the
And Kevin seconded, correct?
It's been motion and seconded. Now it's time for.
You can discuss now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time for discussion.
Yes, sir.
I don't think this is fair to the zoning board. It's not to me, to me, I think it's like saying, hey, zoning board, can you tell us, here's a document, can you tell us what we meant? That's kind of the job. Can you tell us, can you tell us what we were thinking about? Can you interpret it for us? Because we don't know what we gave you. I don't think that makes any sense. I think we need to get this ordinance and be smart enough to sit in a room for a couple hours and figure it out and quantify things that need to be quantified, have it ironclad, and not ask the board of trustees or the zoning board to figure it out for us.
It's a
Mr.
good
Chair, if I
point.
may, you're not wrong, but you didn't write the ordinance, so the purpose of that, why it's built into the legislature like it, the way that it is because many times the planning commission that is sitting is dealing with ordinances that they didn't write. So it's not that we wrote the document and we're sending it to the ZBA to interpret what we wrote. It's just, does it include this or does it not? And they have a different lens that they look through their ordinances with because they're making a semi or pseudo judicial decision. They're not making a legislative decision. The planning commission is a legislative board where you're drafting it, you're writing it. They make the decision on what it means. So it's a separation of powers.
Yeah, good one, Chris. Did who wrote this ordinance? I mean, which ordinance? Was it written inside Thetford Township or somebody bring it to us?
Who wrote it in here?
If I can speak on that, like, it's been a amalgamation of outside influences, inside influences, sending it to the board of trustees, back, down, up, left.
Okay.
I mean, it's been
all over.
That's why it wouldn't surprise me if what this board approved, considering the language that was either removed or put back in, which one was approved by the planning commission and which one was approved by the board of trustees. Because the only thing the planning commission does is make recommendations, and whether or not how it's done at the board of trustees is what becomes the law and what becomes the actual ordinance.
So let me just clarify now. So if it goes to the ZBA, if they say, yes, it's in there, period.
Right.
So now at that point, you or the board, the board could write this and say, okay, it's in there, but you still got to do this setback or all these other guidelines.
Then you're looking at it through the lens of, okay, what does the ordinance say? Even if outdoor grows are permitted, are we going to prove it based on this criteria? Maybe you don't. Maybe it comes back and it's permitted to allow outdoor grows, but we're looking at our ordinance. We're not going to allow it based on this criteria. This was going to change the character of the community because of these decisions. But you're going to be basing it on the ordinance itself and going through the criteria that are included in there of why you're either approving it or recommending approval or denial of that ordinance.
Is the zoning board recommending or deciding?
The zoning board of appeals is decided.
That's what I mean. So if they come back and say it's in, it's in.
It's in.
We can tweak it, the setbacks and anything like that, but it's in if it's in.
Yeah.
So
John, we had workshops on the solar ordinance because there were a lot of things you had to that you didn't want to leave solar companies open to interpretation. Things that could be just as vague as make it appealing. Out up here, they put one 1 foot little shrub about every 600 feet and said, that's appealing to us. So you can't do that. So we took the time to quantify distance, setbacks, heights, sound, all these things in detail. That level of detail is not in the marijuana ordinance.
no, but we can still add it. We can put all that in if it comes back, and whether this is the best route, I don't know. But it is a route to an end,
I'm in favor of let the ZBA interpret number 9.
Basically, that's it.
Yes or no? And then, we will go based on their decision. And we can still go back and look at this ordinance at a later date to clean up other areas to look need to be changed or tweaked or whatever, but we have to base our decision on this site plan really hinges on this number 9, how it is interpreted or meant to be interpreted. So I guess by sending it to ZBA, they're gonna tell us, just like the tower setbacks, this is what you got, this is how you're gonna deal with it. And I like that. I don't like when we got wiggle room to decide what it was meant,
ZBA is supposed to give us that, guidance, and I guess let's take advantage of it. I would be in favor. Want any more discussion, or we just call the roll on? Give me, I guess, call the roll on.
Ogden.
No, now you're never gonna say it right.
Right.
You're gonna think that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Jason McConnell,
Yes.
Gary Tilson,
Yes.
Evan Lawrence.
Yes. It's gonna go to ZBA. Get him to set up a meeting. The chair. So that said, we have new business. Mr. Tarno, you're welcome to rejoin us now if you would. We have, new business is our meeting dates for 2025. And our normal meeting dates are the second Thursday of each month at 5:30, and it's as needed. But it seems like every month it's been needed. We need any motions on that, we just advise that that's what our meeting dates are gonna be. Part B is an annual report to Board of Trustees. I do an annual. I'm something together. And it's what transpired, what our accomplishments in 2025, just to tell the board what we're doing. And I will bring that to a February meeting for us to review or submitted to the Board of Trustees. So that's two things that we have to do. The first is requirements, the first of the year. The annual reports required by the state to be presented to the Board of Trustees. So that being said, public comments. Get our second section here.
Hello, me again. If I remember right, when, the marijuana got voted on in Thetford Township. And again, I could be wrong, but if I remember right, it was all indoor grow. There was no outdoor grow. We were told there was gonna not be any outdoor grow. It was all gonna stay in the triangle. Well, since then, we have grow facilities outside the triangle, and now we have outdoor grow. I personally, before I go to my zoning board meeting, I want to see the law that we voted on back when we voted in Thetford Township. And I believe the reason some of them words are missing is because we had a corrupt township supervisor at the time, and he did what the hell he wanted to do. And that's why there's stuff missing out there. So I truly, before I go to, like I say, before I go to my zoning board meeting next month, I would like to have a copy of the vote that we did when we voted in Thetford Township. And if the zoning board says no outdoor growing, I think it all should be taken away from where it's at now and not allowed anywhere else. If they decide that they're gonna have it in commercial areas, I think even though houses are in the commercial area, maybe we need to do a footage from the grow facility, outdoor grow facility. And me personally, I don't think any outdoor growth facility should be butted up to residential property. I don't care if it's 6 inches or 600 feet. If it's butted up against residential, I don't think it should be there. And if it's within a certain distance from a home, I don't care if it's in commercial property or not, there should be no outdoor grow within a certain facility. And me personally, I don't think there should be any outdoor growth, because when I voted yes, which I am not a marijuana smoker, I'm not an edible eater. I don't do any of it, but I did vote yes on it because I was told that it was going to stay in buildings with proper ventilation. Now, you look at other townships, like Vassar, for example, I deliver dumpsters to them facilities out there. And they're beautiful. I mean, they're pole barns, they got all their stuff. You don't smell anything when you drive through there with your work truck that deliver dumpsters for the new growth facilities. Driving down North, I personally don't go down Dodd Road to North Highway. I don't take North Highway anywhere. I'll go out of my way to not deal with that smell. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Anybody else?
I just want to say thank you guys for actually, I guess, listening. And you do. I mean, I came in, I was pissed. Whatever. Sorry. I'm glad you guys hope it's all different. I mean, the board. I don't know how many of you guys are still there from the original or whatever, but I hope it's going in the right direction.
It's not an easy job that we.
I believe it.
It's in a long.
I don't know how I couldn't sit back there and do what you do. I'd have probably came over the thing and.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment?
I am sort of kind of with him on that whole situation. I think our ordinances do need to refer back to if you're in a commercial zone and you butt up against any residential, that should determine where you're able to either do outdoor or indoor. Just like as archery, they are right next door to a residential house. They have property behind them that is within the 300 feet. That is another residential house. Therefore, they are an indoor grow. How many filtration systems do they have on the front of that building? 4, 5? Huge. And you can still slightly smell it. Like I said, even when I went to go get hot chocolate, you could smell it tonight.
It's true.
But it doesn't bother me as bad because, okay, I got to smell it one night. It's not horrible. I could deal with that, especially if I have to live next to it. I could probably deal with that one night out of how long have they been open? That's the first time I've smelled it. I could deal with that. Every day, all day. I would not want to deal with that at all.
And I ain't saying nothing bad about Grams because I like Grams. I go there every day. Live in that store if I could. But I agree. I don't think they should have outdoor grow in a residential, even if it is commercial. And that guy said the best thing I ever heard, 55 feet. Shouldn't be there.
Our ordinance should be
The
changed.
ordinance.
The ordinance should be changed. Commercial's commercial, but if it butts up against residential, then there's gotta be so much percentage wise that it's gotta be a no. 50%, well, you said 2 foot short of 50%, correct?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's 2 foot short of the
That's
perimeter of the
that's
property.
good enough for me. That's way too much.
I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it's literally like 1 3/4 feet less
That's,
that is exposed to residential side.
and the winds, you already checked out the winds and the winds all go right.
They all blow to the, if they blew across the other way, it would be better, but it blows all into the residential side.
And I mean, you got I know it's not your township, but at the same point in time, you got that trailer park.
I thought that.
How many children are in that trailer park? They don't deserve that either. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a few different things.
I don't want to take up your time. But I'll just make a point here. If they comes back, the ZBA comes back and says, yes, outdoor grows are approved. Now we can still tweak the ordinance at that point to say not by any residential or this far, or like Kevin said, Kevin viewed an outside grow that had these 10-foot fence. You were telling me that they had open at the bottom and they were real high. And he said he walked up outside the fence and could not smell it. Now, I have never been there, but I'm just telling you what. Was I supposed to tell you this story, Kevin? Maybe. Too late. But I'm just saying, there's things that we can do.
So does that workshop that you guys were talking about, does that have like the residents within that 300 feet? And I would actually probably include the people on Lewis Road.
It's open to the public, not just 300 feet. It'd be open to everyone.
So
You guys would get notice, but the public hearing would just be on our website saying, the public hearing for this, blah, blah.
Public hearing to get a letter in the mail, that's what they call it. You're talking about a workshop.
A workshop, I mean, be open to the public.
Workshop would be open to the public and just be noted probably on Facebook pages, the township website. There wouldn't be a mailing, you know, so.
No, not for that, only for actually action that's gonna be taken.
But like if we have a public hearing, then that's that 300-foot notice for something that's going on affecting you within a certain radius. If we have a, like say, like Gary said, workshops are great. If you sit up and it's, but it is informal. You sit down at the round table and you just throw ideas in the air and see, you know. And sometimes you get some good ones, or you get information that you didn't see, but somebody else did. Okay, we can incorporate that. That's how we built some of our ordinances. Like I say, solar was a long drawn out process, but we learned a lot from listening to other people, you know, and what they wanted. But there again, I'm taking a public comment.
I know, I tried to get out of there, but that was.
Yeah. Anybody else want to?
Good job, Tim.
Any other public comments? Okay, I'm gonna close public comments and go to board member comments. Gary, you want to talk on that?
Thanks, yeah, thanks everybody for coming up. I know that, you know, a lot of stuff, you know, it's like, hey, just make a quick decision and we're all out of here. No, I take this seriously. I didn't take this appointment lightly, and the township's important. I'm gonna spend the rest of my life here, and I view it through the eyes of people who are gonna spend and dedicate the rest of their life to the township. So I don't mind taking a few extra months or whatever it takes to get it right. So thanks for pushing. Don't oppose the motion at the beginning of the meeting, and I told Kevin during the break that if I had a nickel for every time I was threatened to be sued, I'd be living on $1 billion yacht in the Gulf of Mexico. So, but you got to do what you got to do. I did the same thing when I was up there, and somehow it made me feel better. But anyway, thanks for coming, and appreciate everybody's coming.
Jason.
Thanks everybody for coming out. We do actually appreciate you guys. We're just people just like you, and we don't do this stuff only for the money. It's we learn a lot to be on this board. I know that you know, I try to think of things like, I don't want this to sound cold, but I always think of things like, you know, if you don't like what's going on your property next to you, then, you know, buy it, control it. You know, not everybody can do that. I understand that, but and I know that when the law was written, you know, Eric has brought it to several meetings, and I've read it. We've taken words out of it, and you know, one word that I remember him pointing out that you know, is to be interpreted liberally, you know, like loosely, like, you know, don't be so restrictive, right? You know, but I get it. We got, you know, it's trying to be a happy balance. We got a business that wants to do business here, and we have people that live next door to it. You know, what do we do to make a happy medium? And you know, we drafted that ordinance, and we spent a long time on that ordinance, and I don't know how we never talked about outdoors really. I don't recall. I'm gonna go back and pull all my notes from, I don't throw away nothing, so I got them. And I'm gonna figure out which ordinance, actually, because I feel like there was one. Somebody said something got taken out, and I believe that to be true, and I'm gonna go back and research it. But yeah, thanks all for coming. We appreciate you guys, and I'll see you and Eric at the ZBA on this one. Oh boy, better be ready, because we're gonna have to.
I bet we're gonna see them too.
That's okay. Okay.
Yes, the ZBA.
Well, it's actually been a benefit because two of the ZBA members are here.
Three.
Oh, straight, there are two. So they have quite a pretty good opinion now of hearing what the concerns are and what this board's looking for in that interpretation. So that part's good. And I take nothing personal of, you know, people get wound up. And I remember that, and this probably won't be the only time. So in the future, but I'm glad that we've came to a place, where we're a little better than when we got here, so. That's all I have.
Okay, I'll just make it brief. I like everything, go by the rules, you know, give me the guidebook and I'll run with it. And yeah, this section 5.9 has been a little bug in my behind here for quite some time, trying to sort out where we're at. And that's why I had got an attorney opinion prior to this meeting when this thing first come up. And we've debated it. And one thing that we are guilty of as a whole, as a township representatives for the people, is ordinances get put on the books and never get looked at again. And that's something that we need to stop that process. We need to revisit. We just recently passed a solar ordinance, and I told the people when we did, 6 months from now, we're gonna look at it again for the changes. And this marijuana ordinance was passed in February of 24, but I don't really think it had been rewritten. It just was pulled back together from previous ordinances and put through and published and got on the books. And the marijuana business is forever changing. It's just the state, every time the state changes something, you need to react to it. And we're guilty of not following up on things that the state reacts on and changes. And it's a tough job to do. And I'll come in, Tammy kind of coordinates the marijuana licenses and works with the marijuana businesses for their permits and everything. And she's the contact person that the state contacts when they apply for licenses. So she does quite a job. She's our marijuana guru in a way that we rely on to pass information. So hopefully we will get some more clarity on this and get it resolved that everybody can live with whatever we come up with. Mr. Chris, do you want to make any comments to our residents? You're free to say anything. Okay, I'm just offering you this chance. With that being said, make a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Yay.
Second.
Yeah, somebody do that. Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Make a motion that the chair buys pizza if he's meeting around for 2 hours.
I decided to go to the zoning board. I wanted to get in there at 6, to be honest.